Chapter 1. I became a Konoha test subject. Konoha, root headquarters. Arg, just kill me. Danzo Shimura, may you die a horrible death. Ah. Inside the dark laboratory, agonizing screams echoed, enough to make one's scalp tingle. On the operating tables, several people could be seen being cruelly dissected. In a cage behind them, more than a dozen people shivered in fear. The old, the young, women, and children were all there. If Hiruzen Sarutobi were to see this scene, his face would surely darken. Danzo is ruthless enough, not even sparing women, children, or the elderly. Under a light not far away, a middle-aged man watched this scene with a blank expression, his cold eyes glinting with a strange sense of anticipation. A few meters from the operating table, an infant lay inside a nutrient tank, guarded by several high-ranking root shinobi as if it were a priceless treasure. At that moment, a root ninja approached, knelt on one knee, and spoke respectfully, "Lord Danzo, we've investigated the matter of the cursed infant." Cursed infant, the nickname given by Root. Speak. Danzo glanced at the infant's location, his eyes filled with curiosity. 3 months ago, the cursed infant was discovered in the Konoha forest by the orphanage director. It was brought back to the orphanage to be raised. No information regarding its parents was found, so it was presumed abandoned. According to the investigation, the cursed infant cannot see, hear, speak, or even move. Hearing this, Danzo's eyelid visibly twitched. No need for presumption, it was definitely abandoned. Even so, the cursed infant survived. Incredibly, anyone who touches the infant will have their physical or psychological defects gradually healed. The orphan Kiyohata, who was always bald, grew a full head of black hair a month after touching the cursed infant. The orphan Shiroki, who was missing his right hand, grew a new right arm 2 months after touching the cursed infant. The orphan Hokuto, who was mentally unstable, returned to normal 10 days after touching the cursed infant. The orphan Sokka, who had always been short, grew 20 centimeters after touching the cursed infant. The orphan Narunishi. With every true case the root ninja reported, Danzo's eyes grew a little brighter. After hearing about dozens of people whose physical or psychological defects had been self-repaired, Danzo immediately stood up, unable to suppress his excitement. Is there any other information? Lord Danzo. Seeing Danzo about to touch the infant, the root ninja quickly warned, those who touch the cursed infant do not live long. Many have died without any warning. In an instant, Danzo stopped in his tracks, his face sinking. As expected, there's a catch. The root ninja continued with a strange expression. Not only that, but everyone who was healed by touching the cursed infant began to worship it as a god, calling the cursed infant the child of God. This was the reason for the experiment. All those old people, women, and children were from the Konoha orphanage, they had all touched the infant's body. And it was because of this abnormal phenomenon that they attracted the prying eyes of Root, leading to this tragedy. For a moment, Root headquarters fell silent. Everyone's gaze, intentionally or not, fell upon the infant. A ninja reported, "Lord Danzo, Lord Hokage has summoned you. Lock up everyone who touched the cursed infant. No one is to touch it without my permission." Danzo's expression shifted, and he finally left the laboratory, leaving behind a vicious command. The child of God. Hey, throw it in the dungeon without food or water. Let's see if it dies. The root ninja was not surprised. It wouldn't be too late to experiment after a day of confinement. After all, Lord Danzo had a little quirk. The more outstanding the test subject, the more he felt the need to abuse it, as if to soothe some psychological deficiency. In common terms, he was a sadist. After the infant was thrown into the dungeon, the screams in the laboratory continued unabated. This place was hell. After more than a dozen heavy doors were sealed shut, several root ninja stood guard outside. Behind the doors, inside the dungeon, the infant opened its eyes. And carrot hash at asterisk and hash. The infant let out a low whimper, its bright eyes filled with resentment. Old fiend Danzo, may you die a horrible death. If Danzo could understand the infant's meaning, he would surely be stunned. The cursed infant can speak. It can recognize me. This was because the souls of those who died after touching the infant would turn into pure energy and repair the infant's defects. Its ability to speak, see, hear, and so on. They had been repaired over a month ago. It was just that after the infant became aware of the world, it chose to use a special energy to hide the fact that its defects had been repaired, but it still met the old fiend Danzo. What a hell-level start. The infant quieted down, its heart heavy. The infant's name was Lucian, a transmigrator from Earth who had physically traveled. But to Lucian's dismay, his 20-year-old body had reverted to that of an infant upon his arrival in the Konoha forest, where he was found by the director and taken to the orphanage. Surviving as an infant is difficult in any world, let alone the war-torn ninja world. But just when he thought being an infant was miserable enough, the problems that followed made Lucian begin to despair. The various defects from 3 months ago were Lucian's initial state as an infant. Like a stillborn, all he could feel was endless darkness. But even so, Lucian successfully survived by relying on the special energy within his body. Gradually, Lucian discovered that when others touched him, he would share a part of his soul, filling the gaps in the toucher's soul. This caused the toucher's original psychological or physical defects to gradually heal. But all those who touched Lucian did not live long. Upon the contact's death, the previously shared piece of soul would return to his body, absorbing the toucher's soul energy to further heal his own body. This allowed the infant Lucian to gradually recover his ability to speak, see, hear, and other functions. Lucian also discovered that he had been revered as a god by those he had healed, who respectfully called him the child of God. Then he was discovered by Root, leading to this hell-level start. Did I inherit Yhwach's abilities? At first, Lucian was in despair. But the energy within him that protected him from death, along with the series of events, made the now calm Lucian reflect. Such a peculiar infant. Besides that major boss from the world of Shinigami who was killed by the plot, who else could it be? Yhwach. From the Shinigami anime. His Majesty, the Emperor of the Invisible Empire. The progenitor of the Quincy, the natural enemy of the Shinigami. It's not just Yhwach's abilities, there's more. Lucian sensed the special energy within his body. A gem shimmering with blue-black light was helping him endure his weakest period. Its ability resembled the Hōgyoku. But it was far more mysterious and powerful. Because the Hōgyoku was not enough to traverse the ninja world, it had to be a special, powerful treasure. It was more accurate to say that it recorded the Hōgyoku's ability during its journey through time and space. Even Yhwach's abilities were likely just what it had recorded and was currently manifesting. The gem might have many more abilities. It might even be able to carry Lucian across worlds again. Whatever this gem is, I'll just call it the Hōgyoku for now. At the very least, what I can feel right now are only Yhwach's abilities and the Hōgyoku's power. Are these my golden fingers? 6 comments 0 vote. Chapter 2. The Quincy Progenitor, Spirit Particle Training. Hum. Streams of formless energy surged from all directions, jolting Lucian's spirit, and a hint of sadness couldn't help but appear in his eyes. This energy came from the souls of the people who had touched Lucian. They were all dead. Because Lucian couldn't control his sharing ability before, it led to their deaths. After they died, their soul energy transformed into highly concentrated spirit particles, which were then absorbed by Lucian. This allowed Lucian to repair his own defects and strengthen himself. For the 3 months he had been an infant, he was cared for by the orphanage. The people there were war orphans and some kind volunteers, and they had gradually soothed Lucian's restless heart. But disaster struck so quickly, and Lucian could not forget the tragic death of the director. In the end, I was too weak. Lucian took a deep breath and focused on absorbing the spirit particles. Since he was in this dog-eat-dog world, there was only one goal. To become strong, stronger than anyone else. Half an hour later, Lucian opened his eyes. If Danzo were to see Lucian now, he would be stunned, because the infant Lucian had now grown to look 2 or 3 years old. In fact, Lucian had truly grown from an infant into the form of a 3-year-old and had stood up. I can finally move, and I can absorb spirit particles on my own. Over a month ago, the deaths of those who touched him had restored his sight, hearing, and voice, but only now could Lucian finally move. Most importantly, he could now strengthen himself. Spirit particles. In Lucian's eyes, the dark dungeon was as brilliant as a starry sky, filled with dense, extremely active points of light. In the soul society of the Shinigami world, all matter is composed of spirit particles. Spirit particles also exist in the living world, but they are not as dense, as the soul society is a gathering place for souls. In the ninja world, as Lucian observed, spirit particles were a form of energy that could be cultivated. If a world had a place like an underworld or a netherworld, then after a living being dies, a part of their soul would turn into spirit particles, considered a loss of soul energy. If a world had no residence for souls, then after death, the entire soul would turn into spirit particles. The ninja world has a pure land. But with the accumulation over countless years, even if only a small part of a soul turns into spirit particles and remains in the world after death, the number of spirit particles would still be innumerable. Spirit particles, spiritual power, spiritual pressure, spirit channels. Sensing the power within himself, Lucian knew he had a strong foundation. Like this. Lucian raised his hand, directly gathering spirit particles at his fingertip, which filled with a destructive aura. A small Heilig file. The next second, Lucian waved his hand and dissipated it. This was not the place for experiments. Besides, his strength didn't allow for it. Lucian looked at his 3-year-old body. The spiritual power within him was too little, even forming a small Heilig file was a strain. As for the medium, large, multiple, or the great holy bow versions of Heilig file, and techniques like the spirit particle space, Sankt Altar, condensed spirit particle flames, Sankt Zwinger, Schattenbereich, blood vene, blood artery, Hōgyoku, and so on. Lucian couldn't use any of them at the moment. Let alone, the Almighty. Although the Almighty was just the name of an ability, it also indicated just how powerful it was. First, I'll try to control the spirit particles to make a piece of clothing. Lucian's thoughts ran wild. Spirit particles could form everything in the Soul Society. If he could use spirit particles to create clothes, it would mean his control over them was meticulous. After all, concentrated spirit particles could create most objects and buildings. There is only one way to get stronger as fast as possible. Lucian's gaze was resolute. Danzo, that old schemer, could come back to dissect him at any moment. Who knows how long it took Yhwach to go from a useless infant to his peak, only to die after 1,000 years. But he didn't have time to leisurely absorb spirit particles to grow stronger. Hōgyoku, can you feel my heart? Outside. The entire village of Konoha was filled with a tense atmosphere. Ninjas could be seen with solemn expressions, the air thick with the feeling of impending war. After the First Shinobi World War, the ninja world had recuperated for 20 years. However, due to the imbalanced economic development between nations, the militaristic factions within each ninja village began to rise, starting to fight for their own interests. The most sensational event in the ninja world was that before the major ninja villages could declare war on each other, the village hidden in the rain, in order to expand its territory, directly declared war on the land of iron, Konoha, and the village hidden in the sand. Had the village hidden in the rain gotten arrogant? No, it was a matter of necessity. The land of rain was caught between the three great nations of fire, wind, and earth. It was bound to become a battlefield sooner or later. It was better to seize the initiative, especially since the leader of the village hidden in the rain was a demigod. Hanzo the demigod, although he was a tiny bit different from Hashirama and Madara, he was still at the pinnacle of this era's shinobi. The latest news was that Hanzo of the Salamander was leading a team to invade the Land of Iron. The samurai of the Land of Iron fled without a fight upon hearing his name, with only a samurai named Mifune staying behind alone. He withstood a few blows and was spared by Hanzo. The village hidden in the sand also began to advance towards the Land of Rain, and the village hidden in the cloud and others were stirring, each ready to fight for their own interests. At this moment, Hokage's office. Such lovely villagers. It's a pity war is coming. Hiruzen Sarutobi was smoking his large pipe, his gaze occasionally falling on his crystal ball, revealing a lecherous smile. Only when Danzo arrived did he properly retract his gaze. Lord Danzo. A pale man with golden, vertical pupils greeted him. After taking office as Hokage, Hiruzen had his favorite student serve as Danzo's attendant, showing the importance he placed on Danzo. Currently, Orochimaru often worked with Danzo. Orochimaru. My growth is inseparable from the cultivation of that old fiend Danzo. What do you want from me? Danzo also glanced at the crystal ball, a look of contempt in his eyes. This old man despises this kind of person the most, a man who peeks in secret. If you like it, just go for it. If anyone dares to disobey, kill their whole family. Sensing Danzo's gaze, Hiruzen coughed lightly and then said seriously, Danzo, tell me, why did you capture the people from the orphanage? If it were just a few people taken at random, Hiruzen, with his fondness for Danzo, wouldn't have asked. But this time, dozens of people were taken, most of them old, weak, women, and children. If word got out, the impact would be extremely negative. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 3. Schattenbereich, surprise attack on Danzo. Smack. Danzo said nothing, simply tossing a file over. He handed a copy to Orochimaru as well. Danzo recognized Orochimaru's talent. Especially in the field of experimental science, the word genius was insufficient to describe him. Quote. Sarutobi stared at the file, stunned. Even the usually nonchalant Orochimaru felt a jolt internally. This infant possessed a wondrous, Kekkei Genkei. In everyone's perception, this was a new bloodline limit. An infant who could restore health just by being touched, if it grew up. Even without combat abilities, it would be of strategic importance. At this, Sarutobi spoke seriously, Danzo, I will permit this experiment, on the condition that I am made aware of all research results. And finally, you are not to harm him. This child is destined for my Anbu. Danzo understood Sarutobi's meaning, the power of the Hokage, a power he himself coveted. At present, Sarutobi was the renowned god of shinobi, and a good working relationship was beneficial for Danzo's own development. Just as Danzo was preparing to leave, a root ninja suddenly appeared. Lord Danzo, those test subjects, they all committed suicide. Quote. Root headquarters. When Danzo led Sarutobi and Orochimaru into the facility, they were met with the sight of dozens of corpses in the laboratory. What made everyone's blood run cold was that these old, weak people, women, and children had all died with smiles on their faces, a stark contrast to the grim atmosphere of the lab. What happened? Lord Danzo was angry, and the consequences would be severe. Were the root ninja all idiots? They couldn't even stop ordinary people from committing suicide. Feeling Danzo's wrath, the root ninja spoke with a dry voice. Lord Danzo, after the cursed infant was locked away, some of them went into a frenzy, shouting for the child of God, and then, they committed suicide en masse. Even my immediate medical treatment was useless. It was as if their souls were missing. Hiss. Was this for real? Danzo felt his scalp tingle. The report had said they treated the cursed infant as a god of their faith, but Danzo had assumed it was just a figure of speech. Now it seemed that his parting words, which they must have interpreted as an order to execute the infant, had led to self-sacrifice. A funeral by suicide. What kind of bloodline is this? A new form of truth. Watching the tragic scene in the lab, Orochimaru couldn't help but lick his lips, his interest intensely piqued. Of course, Uncle Snake had not yet gone to extremes, but his thirst for the truth had never changed. Where is the child? Take me to see him. Sarutobi was also annoyed, reminded of things like the Jashin cult in the Land of Rivers. It was a good thing Danzo discovered this in time. If this had gone on for a few more years, wouldn't Konoha have fallen? HMPH. Danzo glanced at the bodies and led the way without another word. Click. Clack. Watching as more than a dozen heavy doors were opened one after another, the path growing ever darker, Sarutobi's eye twitched. Danzo was being far too cautious. Sensei, something's not right. Just as they were about to open the final door, Orochimaru suddenly spoke. Danzo and Sarutobi exchanged a look. They felt it too. The deeper they went, the more they could feel a faint, oppressive presence. It wasn't chakra, nor was it killing intent, but it exerted a strange pressure. Believing it was just a 3-month-old infant inside, Danzo relaxed and said, no outsider can ever break into root, especially not this underground space. Open the last door. As he watched the door slowly open, Orochimaru's eyes narrowed slightly. Is it finally time? But that pressure, it's definitely not my imagination. They're here. Hearing the commotion outside, Lucian clenched his fists. His 3-year-old body had now transformed into that of a 6-year-old. The price of this growth was absorbing the soul energy from the suicides of the orphanage members. And it had unlocked most of his abilities. Shatten Barike. With a flicker of shadow, Lucian vanished from his spot. Shatten Barike, a common skill for pure-blooded Quincy, using a black shadow to move a person or object into another space. However, the time one can exist in that other space is limited. Once the time is up, the shadow will envelop the user or object and forcibly return it to its original space. Where is he? Where did he go? The cell before them was empty and dark. Danzo scanned the room but saw nothing. The root ninja behind him were shocked and panicked, swearing that no one had come out. It was like they'd seen a ghost. There are traces of movement, but they just vanish here. Sarutobi followed the tracks, but they led to nothing but a shadow. Mini. Heilig file. To form the spirit particles as quickly as possible, Lucian created a simplified version of the Heilig file within the Shatten Barike. After all, it was just a method of applying spirit particles. Just as Danzo was about to erupt in anger, a faint glimmer of light flickered in the shadow before him, instantly causing everyone present to tense up. Look out! Get back! Amidst Sarutobi's cry of alarm, the glimmer of light suddenly flared brilliantly. The light shot out like an arrow, streaking through the void like lightning, aimed straight for Danzo. Fast. It was too fast. Danzo, who was in the middle of a body flicker retreat, only saw a flash of light before subconsciously raising his right arm. A sharp pain shot through him, accompanied by the sound of the air itself tearing apart. Arg! Danzo's raised right palm was instantly shredded, and the projectile continued through half his arm, shooting straight into his right eye. When Sarutobi turned back, he saw Danzo's right hand torn into a bloody mist and the gruesome wound where his right eye had been. A heart-wrenching scream echoed throughout Root. A maimed arm. A single eye. Protect Lord Danzo. The Root ninja reacted instantly, launching attacks into the dungeon while pulling the agonized Danzo back. Boom. 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 A dozen ninjutsu simultaneously bombarded the narrow dungeon, the explosions echoing endlessly as dust and debris filled the air. Lucian, we're not even in the same dimension. Blast away all you want. Chapter 4. First meeting with the Hokage, and a young Kushina. What a pity. Sensing that Danzo had only lost his hand and right eye, Lucian snorted coldly. He wasn't proficient with any of his skills yet. Otherwise, a single small Heilig file would have been enough to kill Danzo instantly. When the dust settled, the dungeon was in ruins, but there was still no sign of Lucian. Old fiend Danzo, I've helped you get your new eye and hand ahead of schedule. No need to thank me. Although Danzo would have a Sharingan in his right eye socket some 20 years later when he attacked Shisui, even using a Zanagi to ambush him, the current Danzo wore no bandages. A youthful voice suddenly echoed from the depths of the ruins, shocking the Root ninja. The infant can talk. No, wait, it's not dead. Are you sure that was an infant? Sarutobi's face was also grave. It was laughable. He hadn't even seen the enemy. He had faced the Asuras of the ninja world without flinching. But never before had he faced an infant as if it were a formidable foe, an enemy he hadn't even laid eyes on. That attack just now. No, that energy, and where is he hiding? Orochimaru's golden, serpentine pupils began to shine. In such a short time, Lucian had provided him with one surprise after another. Arg! Danzo's roar was filled with pain and fury, his killing intent overflowing as he bellowed, kill it. Kill it for me. It must die. Take Danzo for treatment, seal the exit, and notify the barrier team to seal off all of Root. Sarutobi made a swift decision, ordering everyone to fall back. When the power gap wasn't too large, ninja battles were battles of intelligence. But when the enemy's techniques were unknown, sealing the area was the best choice. A pleasure to meet you. You must be the Hokage of Konoha. As they retreated, the group caught a glimpse of a figure flickering into existence, stunning everyone. Quote. Sarutobi shot the enraged Danzo a look that said, "Are you kidding me? What happened to the infant? This boy looked 6 or 7 years old. Where did he get the black robe?" But most captivating was the brilliant blue sphere of energy in Lucian's right hand. In the dark underground, it made him look like a demon child. Sarutobi sighed heavily and said, "Child, no matter what happened, stop this now. Since you are here, you should know what happened." Lucian replied with a cold gaze. In the world of adults, there is no good or bad, only right and wrong. In his eyes, Danzo wasn't a bad person, he was a person who deserved to die. Moreover, Lucian had inherited the power of a king, making him a natural enemy to Konoha, to everything. Stay in Konoha. As a civilian. As a ninja. As the village chief. Don't be ridiculous. The tiny village of Konoha could not contain Lucian's ambition. That power is what allowed an infant to grow so quickly. Orochimaru studied Lucian carefully. The boy seemed to have an aura that was completely out of place in this world. When his eyes met Lucian's, Orochimaru was surprised to find he understood his gaze. Lucian, don't mind that I'm small, I'll grow up fast. How about joining me? Orochimaru smiled, his eyes replying, interesting. Let's talk again after you've survived this. Lucian, you understood. You're a smart one, indeed. Orochimaru. Likewise. Quote. Sarutobi's eyelid twitched. Were they flirting with their eyes right in front of him? Danzo roared, all of you, attack. Kill him. Hey, too late. Accept my grand gift. The two sentences of banter were just Lucian stalling for time to gather spirit particles. First, I'll destroy your Root. Condensed spirit particle flame. This was the technique Lucian had been preparing ever since Danzo appeared. By continuously compressing spirit particles, the super-concentrated particles would burn, releasing extremely destructive, high-temperature flames. Yhwach had once used these spirit flames to easily conquer Hōgyoku Mundo and bring ruin to the Soul Society. Swoosh. Lucian could only use a crude version for now, simply projecting the highly concentrated spirit particles. The moment Lucian made his move, Sarutobi acted, retreating while simultaneously performing a technique. Earth style. Earth flow wall. A massive wall of earth and rock rose from the ground, forming a barrier. The instant the wall appeared, the spirit flame made contact with it. The wall was then effortlessly obliterated, and a blue flame erupted forth. Boom. Along with a massive explosion, a powerful shockwave swept out, blasting Sarutobi and the others away. The blue flame shot towards the sky, becoming a towering pillar of fire that pierced through all the upper levels of the root facility. It set off a chain reaction, causing the entire underground base to collapse. A few minutes earlier. Although Konoha was on a war footing and the atmosphere was tense everywhere, the Ninja Academy still had classes. The students, just let out of school, didn't understand the hardships of war. They ran into the arms of their elders with smiling faces, while others walked home in groups or alone. Not far away, a carefree man with waist-length white hair was walking with a young blonde woman in twin pigtails. The new class of students is about to graduate. The sensei is preparing to make me a Jonin leader. I need to pick the good prospects as soon as possible. Who knows, I might be able to train a ninja as excellent as myself, ha ha ha. Bam. Before Jiraiya could finish his narcissistic speech, he was met with Tsunade's fist. Idiot. After sending Jiraiya flying with a single punch, Tsunade saw a red-haired girl of about 10 years old running angrily, looking like she was about to beat someone up. Tsunade immediately grabbed her. Who are you? Let me, Auntie Tsunade. The red-haired girl turned her head and her expression immediately turned to one of pleasant surprise. She often went to the Senju clan's lands to see her clan's ancestors and play, so she was naturally familiar with the princess of the Senju clan. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. What did you call me? Sorry, my mistake, Sister Tsunade. The red-haired girl stuck out her tongue sheepishly, looking quite cute. Her delicate little face was bright red, like a tomato that made you want to take a bite. Who were you about to hit just now, Kushina? No one. I was just playing hide and seek with my classmates, yes, that's it. Seeing Kushina Uzumaki lie without blinking, Tsunade rolled her eyes. Everyone knew that Kushina was the big sister of the upper grades, the #1 girl in the Ninja Academy. Sister Tsunade, look over there. Kushina pointed not far away, her face full of gossip. What are that white-haired uncle and that effeminate-looking guy doing? The world of adults is so scary. Tsunade turned to look, and her face immediately darkened. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 5. Minato. That white-haired uncle is terrifying. After Jiraiya was sent flying by Tsunade's punch, a yellow-haired kid walking out of the academy stared in shock at the figure falling from the sky. Driven by a desire to help, and not wanting to see a white-haired uncle fall to his death. He rushed over and caught Jiraiya. The momentum was too much. The two of them crashed to the ground, and to the astonishment of the onlookers. They landed face to face, their lips meeting. Their eyes locked. It was as if the world stood still. The crowd watched the drama unfold. My goodness, that man doesn't even spare children. Tui. My first kiss. You damn brat, you've ruined my innocence. Jiraiya immediately jumped away, letting out a pig-like squeal, and with tears in his eyes, he started roughing up the yellow-haired kid. From the tale of the utterly gutsy shinobi, that kiss under the setting sun was my lost youth. The yellow-haired kid was speechless. I saved you and you're hitting me. Ahem. Noticing the stares from the crowd, Jiraiya coughed lightly, showing no sign of embarrassment. He pulled the yellow-haired kid up, flicked his flowing white hair, and spoke in a deep, powerful voice. Young man, what is your name? Such an air of a master. The yellow-haired kid was dumbfounded. After a moment, he managed to stammer out, M.I.K's. Minato. Namikaze Minato. A fine name. No, it's Namikaze Minato. Wow. Suddenly, Jiraiya looked as if he had discovered a priceless treasure, exclaiming in amazement, incredible, truly incredible. I see a glorious light erupting from the crown of your head. Do you know, for someone so young to have such impressive chakra, you are a once-in-a-millennium prodigy of cultivation. Therefore, the crowd was stunned, and Minato was even more confused. Jiraiya's voice dropped to a serious tone. I am entrusting you with the mission to punish evil and uphold world peace, alright? Okay. Minato nodded subconsciously, and then saw Jiraiya stuff a book into his hands. This draft of Make Out Paradise is a priceless treasure. I can see we're bound by fate. In exchange for your wallet, I'll bestow it upon you. No need to thank me. Quote. Ah, my wallet. This white-haired uncle, does he have no shame? Watching Jiraiya walk away coolly with his wallet, Minato Namikaze was on the verge of tears. When he took out the book and looked at it, the simple and kind young Minato's face instantly turned bright red. On the cover was a suggestive illustration. Below it were the words, Make Out Paradise Draft. PFF'd. Jiraiya. Tsunade, who had watched the entire exchange, her face darkened as she clenched her fists. Boom. At that moment, a massive explosion shook Konoha, and the ground trembled violently. What the hell, is Tsunade that strong? Jiraiya was flabbergasted. She clenches her fist and the world falls apart. Has Tsunade been hiding her true strength all this time, afraid of making me feel inferior? But the towering flames in the southeast of Konoha shattered Jiraiya's fantasy and startled everyone. Ah, what's that? Hiss, the sky looks like it's been torn open. Everyone on the streets of Konoha stared at the scene in shock. The terrifying blue flame tore apart the surrounding land like a volcanic eruption. A pillar of light shot towards the sky, and you could even see a huge hole punched through the heavens by the column of fire. Although Lucian's spiritual power was not yet strong enough, his plan was well executed, unleashing his power with all his might. First, an announcement. The king has arrived. Who's fighting? That's the root base. The shinobi of Konoha were all alerted. Even from a distance, they could feel the scorching heat from that towering pillar of fire, which had raised the temperature of the entire village. Who was this? So terrifying. Jiraiya and Tsunade both rushed towards the direction of the root base. At the site of the root headquarters, the foundation of Konoha, which lay beneath the village, had been blasted through from below. The area was covered in dense, long fissures, and everything within had been buried. The spirit flame continued to burn, turning the area into a zone of molten rock. Boom! The ground suddenly exploded, and a continuous wall, like a mountain range, burst forth from the earth. It was Sarutobi's Earth-style, Earth Flow Fortress Wall. The wall, over 100 meters thick, had bought them a chance to escape the spirit flame. However, cough, the impact of the spirit flame's explosion had left Sarutobi's aura significantly weakened. He looked at the completely ruined root base, his eyes somewhat vacant. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? I was just happily sitting in my office admiring my crystal ball, then went to have a few words with Danzo. And then what? Danzo is crippled, Root is gone, and I'm injured. Root, an organization nearly on par with the Anbu, was destroyed. Looking around, he saw few survivors. Hiruzen Sarutobi's head was buzzing. When he came to his senses, he hurriedly looked at Danzo, whose aura was faint as he convulsed on the ground, looking as if he were about to die. Danzo, are you alright? Don't you dare die. If you die, all. Before Hiruzen Sarutobi could finish, Lucian's slightly mocking voice rang out. Tisk, what a nauseating display of love. Quote. What an insult. Hiruzen Sarutobi's face darkened. Orochimaru gave a strange smile, not caring in the slightest about the injuries he sustained from being blasted away. On the contrary, his interest in Lucian grew even stronger. Sarutobi, capture him alive. I want to study every single one of his cells. Danzo took a deep breath and opened his eye, suppressing the hatred in his heart. Instead, an uncontrollable greed began to surface. This child, so young and yet so strong. It was as if he was back on that day his sensei was surrounded and attacked, the day he was powerless. The day his descent into darkness began. Everything was because he lacked sufficient power. He craved power. Alright. Sarutobi tore off his Hokage robe. His short, yet refined body had held up the sky for Konoha for an entire generation. The god of shinobi. Looking at Lucian, Sarutobi felt a pang of pain in his heart. Such a powerful child. If I had discovered him first. Perhaps things would have been different. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 6, Hōgyoku, Crippling Danzo's 5 Limbs. Danzo also stood, his blood-covered face making him look like a fierce demon. This cursed infant. I must obtain everything he has. What a magnificent soul. At that moment, the soul energy of the root ninja killed by Lucian was completely absorbed by him. In Lucian's eyes, soul energy was the purest form of energy. Like spiritual chi, absorbing it was a great boon. Hiss. To everyone's horror, Lucian's body began to grow taller. They watched as he grew from the appearance of a 6 or 7-year-old to that of a 10-year-old, his aura flaring with newfound strength. A scene like this shattered everyone's understanding of the world. A monster. The newly arrived Konoha ninja all stared with wide eyes. Then, they saw Lucian take a step forward. Danzo instinctively took a step back. Lucian smiled. Why create distance? If you truly wished to harm me, you would draw closer to attack. You are afraid of me. You bastard, I. Danzo began, enraged by the humiliation, but his pupils suddenly contracted. Hōgyoku. Lucian vanished from sight. The Hōgyoku was the Quincy's method of high-speed movement. The more spirit particles gathered, the faster the speed. Everyone strained to sense and observe him, but before they could find Lucian's location, a demonic whisper sounded in Danzo's ear. Combat distance is only meaningful when the opponents are of equal strength. But between you and me, distance is utterly meaningless. Blood artery. The moment Lucian appeared beside Danzo, he activated blood artery. By injecting spirit particles into his blood vessels, he drastically increased his body's destructive power and aimed a vicious kick at Danzo's left shoulder. Bam! When the crowd caught sight of Lucian again, they saw Danzo being sent flying by a brutal kick. With the speed of Hōgyoku and the power of blood artery, Danzo's taijutsu was completely unable to block him. Rip. Everyone watched as Danzo's left shoulder was shattered. Amidst a spray of blood, his entire left arm disintegrated into fragments as he crashed into the ground, able only to curl up and vomit mouthfuls of blood. Many of the ninja felt a cold shiver run through them. Both hands were gone. His right eye was crippled. Swish. Lucian moved again, flashing to Danzo's side and stomping down viciously. Arg. A wretched scream echoed across the ruins of the root base. They saw Danzo's right leg get crushed by Lucian's stomp, leaving him writhing and screaming on the ground. Another leg, broken. Stop it. Lightning style. Thunder. From a distance, Sarutobi released a sharp spear of lightning from his mouth, sweeping the electricity towards Lucian. Blut bene anhaben. Lucian didn't even turn his head. A semicircular shield, like a barrier, formed around him, covering a dozen meters. This was an enhanced extension of Blut bene. It could expand the defensive Blut bene outside the body, forming a patterned, semicircular shield to block enemy attacks. It could also corrode anything that touched it, further expanding its range. Boom. Sarutobi's lightning style was completely ineffective, only creating ripples as it struck the Blut bene anhaben. You know, death isn't the frightening part. Looking at Danzo lying in a pool of his own blood, Lucian raised his foot again. I believe today's experience will be etched into your memory for life, but the pain has only just begun. I will not grant you an easy death. Arg. An inhuman scream of agony rang out once more. They watched as Danzo's only remaining limb, his left leg, was slowly crushed under Lucian's foot. Faced with such excruciating pain, Danzo's consciousness was on the verge of collapse. So ruthless. What in the world did Lord Danzo do to him? Witnessing such a brutal scene firsthand, the ninja who were preparing to attack felt their hearts pound wildly. Sarutobi was also stunned. This child was so cruel. My god, that kid. Jiraiya and Tsunade, who had just arrived, were also dumbfounded. Was that the Hokage's advisor, Konoha's hidden boss, Danzo? His right eye was already gone, both hands shattered, and now both his legs were crippled as well. Anyone else would have lost the will to live. All 4 limbs were useless. Ah, just kill me. The immense physical pain was causing Danzo's consciousness to break down. His bloodshot eye stared daggers at the boy standing over him, his face a mask of savagery. You'd better kill me right now. Otherwise, if you give me a chance, Is that so? I look forward to your performance. To Danzo's terrified gaze, Lucian raised his foot again. Huh, my 4 limbs are already crippled. Where is he going to kick? It can't be, there. Demon, devil. When he saw Lucian's foot aiming for his groin, Danzo's heart nearly stopped. His mind went blank, and an uncontrollable roar burst from his throat. A warrior can be killed but not shamed. Ignore me, everyone. Arg. In Danzo's despair, Lucian's foot came down, and a sickening crunch echoed instantly. Only 4 limbs. I'll just have to cripple all 5. Hiss. The ninja who were about to attack froze as if petrified, their faces masks of stunned disbelief. Such viciousness. Many of the ninja felt a cold chill run down their spines. Some of the kunoichi spat in disgust. Seeing this, Sarutobi's eyes turned red. Attack! He roared. Kill him! Fire style! Water style! Jolted back to their senses, the hundreds of ninja present began to form hand seals in unison. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 7. The Sannin Strike, a moment of despair. Too slow. Lucian deactivated Blood Vene Anhaben and activated Hōgyoku. The crowd only saw a brilliant flash of light as Lucian streaked across the battlefield. Swish, swish, swish. It was as if countless afterimages of Lucian appeared, only to merge back into one. In an instant, he had crossed the entire field and appeared behind them, standing tall. His speed was so fast that no one could react. Behind Lucian stood over 100 shinobi. Including Sarutobi, Orochimaru, and even the newly arrived Jiraiya and Tsunade, all of them were frozen in place for a moment. Thud, 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 thud. The next moment, with the exception of the stunned Danzo, every shinobi within 100 meters of Lucian shuddered violently. Then, as if dealt a heavy blow, they were all sent flying backwards like cannonballs. With a single strike, nearly 100 shinobi were defeated. Gulp. The shinobi rushing over from the distance watched with expressions of utter disbelief and shock. What just happened? A black flash. So fast. Minato, who had also just arrived, was frozen in place. His mind was filled with the image of Lucian's figure flashing past, and all the enemies falling. It was too fast, too cool. Minato. I get it. Speed is power. Ha, that should be enough. Lucian took a deep breath. Although most Quincy abilities didn't consume much spiritual power, mobilizing a large number of spirit particles required immense spiritual power to support it. He had seemed powerful just now, but in his current state, Lucian would struggle to even release a small Heilig file. But this was the result he wanted. This feeling of dancing on the edge of life and death, he craved it. Hōgyoku, are you ready? Thump, thump, thump. Thump, thump, thump. Minato Namikaze, Kushina Uzumaki, and the others who had just arrived felt as if they were suffocating, their hearts pounding in their chests. Because as Lucian cut across the battlefield from a distance, he had collided with those who were rushing over from afar. For example, Kushina Uzumaki was less than 5 meters away from Lucian. Directly in front of him. Damn it, move. Kushina, the big sister of the academy, found her body refusing to obey her commands. It was as if an abyss was yawning right before her. Ah, he clearly looks about the same age as me, why is he so terrifying? Kushina screamed internally, but in the next second, she froze. The person in front of her, who looked to be her age, glanced at her as a king would a mere ant, dealing a massive blow to her pride. She was about to roar that she wasn't afraid. But the words died on her lips, and she could only mutter under her breath. I used to take down kids his size with a single punch. Quote. Lucian's eyes narrowed slightly. A fearless brat, huh? Red hair. Lucian's gaze drifted forward, and sure enough, the yellow-haired boy was there too, looking at him with a resolute gaze. This era, not bad. Tui, damn it, what did this kid eat growing up? Jiraiya spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with envy, jealousy, and hate. So handsome at such a young age, what would he be like when he grew up? You bastard, you kicked me there, HMPH. Not far away, Tsunade's face was also dark. The great Princess Tsunade, sent flying by a mere child. Unforgivable. What if they were flattened? I'm becoming more and more interested in you, young man. Orochimaru flashed a sinister smile, the flame of a scientist's soul burning in his eyes. Attack together. Sarutobi roared. Lucian was trampling on Konoha's dignity, and Sarutobi's anger was uncontrollable. 10,000 snakes formation. Hearing the command, Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. His mouth opened to an unbelievable angle, and countless snakes began to pour out madly, quickly forming a massive, overwhelming wave of serpents that flooded the ruins. They surged towards Lucian with unstoppable momentum, and from each snake's mouth, a sharp blade emerged. At the same time, Hiruzen Sarutobi rapidly threw several shuriken. Ninja art, shuriken shadow clone jutsu. The shuriken flying towards Lucian began to multiply at an incredible speed. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8. By the time they were halfway there, the sky was filled with a dense swarm of shuriken. Wild Lion's main technique. Jiraiya's expression turned serious. His white hair suddenly grew and expanded, forming the shape of a lion's head that rushed towards Lucian. This seemingly simple move was not only incredibly fast but also powerful enough to shred any enemy. With this, the sky was filled with shuriken, the ground was a tide of snakes, and the space between was filled with sharp hair, sealing off all of Lucian's escape routes. The three master-student pairs were feigning an attack. The real killing blow was with Tsunade. The four of them had over a decade of tacit understanding. They knew that against a high-speed shinobi like Lucian, they first had to block his path, then close in for a powerful strike. Kushina, get out of the way. Seeing this, an academy teacher shouted. Me. Kushina was also frozen to the spot, less than 5 meters from Lucian. All the attacks were headed for him. If Lucian dodged, the storm of shuriken, the thousands of snakes, and the dense hair would absolutely shred her to pieces. If he didn't dodge, he would die. Kushina. It was as if everything happened in that one moment. Danzo's eyes were filled with anticipation. And a girl with long, straight black hair, who looked to be about 13 or 14. She was as delicate as a porcelain doll, and in her eyes, a single Tomo Sharingan was active. She rushed forward from behind Kushina. And threw her arms around her, shielding her. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 8. Facing death, one must maintain elegance. Makoto. After being embraced, Kushina's breath seemed to stop. She was a few years older, yet from their first meeting, they became close friends who could talk about anything, as if they'd known each other forever. She had given Kushina, an outsider to the village, a sense of warmth. Gentle Makoto was like a beacon in her heart. And now, are we going to die together? Quote. For them, that single moment stretched into an eternity. Then, in the next instant, everyone present witnessed an unbelievable scene. Tsunade, who was poised to leap in and finish the fight after the three-pronged feint, froze in her tracks. Facing death, one must maintain elegance. They saw Lucian give a strange smile, making no move to dodge or counterattack. He simply stood there, smiling. He opened his arms wide, as if to embrace death, welcoming its arrival with the utmost elegance. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Makoto and Kushina, standing before Lucian, were shaken to their core. Why isn't he dodging? Due to their different perspectives, in their eyes, and in the eyes of Minato and the other ninja in front, Lucian looked like a hero, facing death without fear to protect the two girls. With a body that looked no older than 10, he stood as a wall before them. In that moment, his small frame seemed to grow infinitely tall in their minds. What kind of foolish enemy is this? As some whispered in disbelief, the attacks landed. Puchichi. With a sickening sound, the shuriken and white hair pierced straight through Lucian. Amidst the spray of blood, the ferocious swarm of snakes suddenly halted. Orochimaru had stopped them. From their direct line of sight, they saw that the attacks which would have struck the two girls were completely blocked by Lucian's body, while the rest of the barrage just missed them. It was a scene of a man pierced by 1,000 blades. The mental shock of it all left the ninja in front of Lucian with their minds completely blank. As the snake swarm halted abruptly, a few tails flicked out, knocking Makoto and Kushina away. The combination of emotional shock and physical impact caused them to lose consciousness. Seeing this, a kunoichi scooped up the two girls and carried them from the battlefield. The snakes hissed, and the entire field fell silent. Damn it! Orochimaru was surprisingly furious. He immediately withdrew the snakes, his face dark. With the snakes gone, all signs of life vanished from Lucian. It was just a probing feint. Why didn't such a powerful person fight back? Why didn't he even dodge? It was incomprehensible. Everyone stared at the scene in disbelief, as if the powerful figure who had dominated the field moments before had never existed. He died, just like that. Was it really to save two girls he didn't even know? Tsunade unclenched her fists, her gaze lost. Sensei, she said, her voice dry. What exactly did that child do wrong? His sudden death made them all recall the situation. That's right, why were they fighting? They didn't even know why he was an enemy, much less why he had suddenly given up resisting. Was he out of strength? He had just crippled Danzo and destroyed Root, but Sarutobi was too ashamed to speak the words. Every action has a consequence. Any explanation would only complicate things further, so he remained silent. Quickly, continue the attack. In the midst of the silence, the near-dead Danzo shouted with manic excitement. Blast his body to bits, make sure he's not alive. Seal every piece of his flesh and blood. I'm going to study him, piece by piece. Hiss. Hell is empty, and all the devils are here. At that moment, many ninja felt a cold disgust at Danzo's depraved behavior. Stop. Don't go near him. Jiraiya shouted. Just when everyone thought it was out of respect for the dead. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. He saw that Jiraiya's face was extremely serious as he stared intently at the body. What are you looking at? Quote. He might not be dead. Quote. Quote. I can feel it. I've been training with natural energy, although I haven't mastered it. Jiraiya's first sentence made Orochimaru want to hit him, but he continued. But my perception of energy has improved. I can sense a strange, unknown energy spreading within that body. It's fast, it's spreading so fast. It's strong, getting stronger and stronger. The others were confused by what they were hearing, but then Jiraiya's expression changed drastically, and he roared. Look out. It's dangerous, fall back. At the same time, a fatal sense of crisis spread across the field, making everyone's scalp tingle. They saw pinpricks of light appear on Lucian's body. In less than half a second, the light grew so blinding that everyone present had to shut their eyes. Lucian's body began to dissolve into spirit particles, which then converged, reforming into a new figure. Boom. Boom. Jiraiya and the others retreated hastily. But it all happened too fast. Everyone felt a violent and unimaginable surge of pressure. Thud. 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 In an instant, the energy exploded outwards in all directions. A terrifying repulsive force sent everything within a several hundred-meter radius flying, and many of the weaker ninja instantly dissolved into a bloody mist. Boom. The spirit particles formed a pillar of light. This pillar, bright enough to illuminate all of Konoha, shot upwards and tore a rift in the sky. The scene once again shocked those watching from afar. Splash. In an instant, like a torrential downpour, terrifying droplets of spiritual power rained down from the sky. Incredibly, each droplet seemed to weigh a ton, striking the ground like armor-piercing bullets, destroying everything below. Arg. Painful screams filled the air. As one shinobi after another had their bodies destroyed and their souls shattered, the place turned into a living hell. The shinobi who survived through various means, like Hiruzen Sarutobi, glanced behind them, their eyes filled with rage and despair. In just a few short seconds, at least 100 shinobi had died. Sarutobi's heart ached so much he could barely breathe. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 9. Hōgyoku Evolution, Lucian becomes an adult. The pillar of spirit particles and the rain of spiritual power came as quickly as they went. When everyone present looked up, their pupils couldn't help but widen. Hiss, what kind of monster is he? The moment the light dissipated, Lucian reappeared, completely transformed. His 10-year-old body had fully matured. He now stood at over 1 meter and 80 centimeters tall. He had taken on the appearance of a man of about 20, remarkably handsome and extraordinary. His long black hair flowed in the wind, and he wore a white Quincy uniform with a deep red and black cape, naturally exuding a kingly aura. Even more astonishingly, Lucian stood suspended dozens of meters in the air, looking down upon the earth like a god, exuding an immense sense of pressure. Evolution requires fear. Especially the fear of facing death, of being annihilated into dust. Interestingly, I succeeded. And congratulations. Standing high in the sky, Lucian's voice, carried by the spirit particles, spread throughout all of Konoha. For witnessing the birth of a king. What? His death had instead promoted his evolution. Many people's worldviews shattered. With hindsight, they finally understood why Lucian had sought death just now. It was not for the laughable reason of saving 2 little girls. He had used the crisis of death to force his own evolution. How on earth did he do it? Orochimaru gave a subtle smile. The truth had not disappeared, instead, it had become even more mysterious. Good. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Danzo, who had been excited just moments before, was on the verge of collapse. He had experienced too many highs and lows in such a short time. He screamed like a madman. A genjutsu. It must be a damn genjutsu. Damn it. It's fake. It's all fake. There are always villains trying to harm me. I don't believe it. You should all die. Die, arg. Quote. He's gone mad. Sarutobi's face was full of bitterness. Danzo had gone from hope to despair, then from despair back to hope, and now from hope to despair again. Coupled with his crippled body, the blow was too great. With all 5 limbs crippled, who wouldn't break down? Swish. Lucian flashed to the ground, and in an instant, many ninja couldn't help but retreat. In their hearts, Lucian could no longer be called human. If someone called him a demon, or even an evil god, people would believe it. It was all too incredible. Especially with Hiruzen Sarutobi remaining silent, no one dared to make a move. Thank you, Hōgyoku. The process had seemed smooth, but what Lucian had done could only be described as insane. To grow strong quickly, Lucian had only one path, to use the properties of the Hōgyoku to complete his own evolution. What was the Hōgyoku? The Hōgyoku can absorb the desires from the hearts of those around it and manifest them. It can also protect its host's body, making it immortal. When the host's abilities reach their limit or their life is threatened, the Hōgyoku can cause the host to evolve to the next stage. And so, Lucian's plan began. He used his not-so-powerful spiritual energy to launch an all-out attack, disregarding the cost to give Konoha the greatest shock, thereby pushing himself to a certain critical point. Then, he found the right opportunity to complete his evolution in a fatal or death-like crisis. But this was all predicated on the Hōgyoku being perfect. The Hōgyoku needed to sense Lucian's earnest desires, it needed to absorb the desires of those around him, and it needed to have the ability to make Lucian evolve in this world. Various conditions had to be met. In other words, Lucian had done this without fully understanding his golden finger. I admit, I was gambling. But I won the bet. One cannot achieve greatness without a touch of madness. Lucian was also learning from Aizen. That time Jin Ichimaru assassinated him, Aizen didn't dodge Kamishini no Yari. Aizen, who should have died, instead completed an evolution thanks to the Hōgyoku. What in the world are you? Sarutobi now understood. Lucian was definitely not human in the conventional sense. The investigation report clearly stated he was an infant, 3 months old. Which family's infant becomes an adult in the blink of an eye? Everyone looked at Lucian with a mix of emotions, awe, fear, resentment, excitement, as if he were the center of the world. Am I human? Lucian was silent. Since transmigrating here, he had experienced the darkness of infancy, the terror of Danzo, the recovery of his power, ruthless slaughter, and then self-evolution. His path was gradually becoming clear from the initial confusion. It seemed it was time to establish a goal. I am Lucian, king of the invisible empire. At this moment, Lucian's ambition was fully reawakened. Others may like a simple, ordinary life, but if one has the ability, no one is content with being ordinary. He would unite the ninja world, he would continue to evolve, he would break the barriers between dimensions. Authority, power, beautiful women, I want it all. Reborn into a new life, he would live it with vigor and grandeur. Since this world is without a master, then I shall be its king. These two declarations shook all of Konoha. Carried by the spirit particles, they spread out in all directions, seemingly intended to reach every corner of the land of fire, and the entire ninja world. At the same time, powerful beings all over the world looked towards Konoha, as if a great terror had been born there. The 3 great sage regions. The white snake sage in Ruchi Cave awoke, and the slug sage in Shikatsu forest trembled. In Mount Myoboku, the great toad sage coughed up a mouthful of blood. PFF'd. The sleeping Gamamaru was suddenly jolted awake from his dream, coughing up blood, his eyes filled with shock and terror. Before the 2 sage toads, Fukasaku and Shima, could react, Gamamaru fainted again, leaving behind only one sentence. Konoha is in trouble, the ninja world faces a great change, recalled Jiraiya. Fukasaku and Shima looked at each other in dismay. What was going on? 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10. Follow me, and I shall grant you eternal life. Silence fell over Konoha once again. Everyone stared at Lucian with wide eyes. The invisible empire. They could understand that Lucian wanted to establish a new nation, but to declare himself king of the ninja world, his ambition was laid bare. He wasn't just an enemy of Konoha, he was an enemy of the entire ninja world. Insolence. You think, Homura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatane had just rushed to the scene. Kaharu, in the throes of menopause, acted like a shrew, immediately assuming a posture of superiority. The sorrow of the weak. A life force that doesn't match one's strength is a waste. Before Kaharu could finish her sentence, Lucian slightly raised his fingertip, instantly gathering the surrounding spirit particles. A small Heilig file shot out like a laser beam. It arrived in an instant. Splat. With a flash of light, Kaharu Udatane's head exploded like a watermelon, splattering red and white matter all over Homura Mitokado beside her. It was a suffocating scene. Everyone's thoughts came to a halt. He killed a Konoha elder just because he disagreed with her. Quote. Anger had just begun to rise in Sarutobi. As he prepared to speak, he was met with Lucian's cold gaze. Silence. Lucian's spiritual power swept out, sending Sarutobi flying. At this moment, there was no longer any power in Konoha that could kill Lucian. They didn't understand the terror of a warrior who grew stronger with every battle. The Reaper Death Seal. To a Quincy, the so-called Shinigami of the Reaper Death Seal was too fragile. He could even reverse control it. It would have no effect on Lucian. Alternatively, Sarutobi's soul power was insufficient to seal Lucian. The 8 gates released formation. Lucian could just take a nap in the Shatten Barrack, and the effect of the 8 gates would have worn off by the time he came out. Then, Lucian turned to look at the maddened Danzo, his eyes cold. The madness was temporary. Danzo's will was strong, he might be back to normal by tomorrow. Old fiend Danzo, your suffering has only just begun. Live on in despair. I will destroy your dream. You will never become Hokage in this lifetime, because I am destined to destroy Konoha. Not even Hashirama could stop me. I've said it. Every word pierced Danzo's heart, making his body tremble uncontrollably. A demon. This was a devil. Faced with the strange gazes of countless people, Danzo wanted to die, but in the end, he was afraid of death and could only close his eyes and pretend to be unconscious. Swish. As everyone stood on high alert, Lucian glanced at Orochimaru, then vanished from the spot, not to be seen again. Many people were in a daze. If not for the ruins and corpses all over the ground, they would have thought it was all a dream. Many collapsed to the ground, soaked in sweat as if they had been pulled from water. The pressure exuded by the evolved Lucian was too intense. They knew nothing about him. Could Konoha withstand such an enemy? Sensing a decadent atmosphere spreading through Konoha, Jiraiya spoke up unexpectedly. Hey, who's Hashirama? Why did he mention Hashirama? The entire field was stunned. That's right, who was Hashirama? Hey, don't hit me. I was just trying to lighten the mood. Seeing Tsunade's face darken, Jiraiya immediately dodged. He then sighed deeply, actually, that Lucian just now. I might have been able to take him down. The energy in his body was unstable, which is why he was in a hurry to leave. Tsunade frowned, why didn't you say so earlier? Would it have been any use? It was just a possibility. If he had escaped or if I was wrong, it would have only brought more harm to Konoha. Jiraiya shook his head with a bitter smile. This was the only way. Everyone has ambitions. There have been plenty who wanted to unite the ninja world. Although he has ambition, you can see he's not just a madman who only kills. Right now, he has nothing but strength and good looks. It will take a long time to build up a force. As long as we work hard to become stronger, the will of fire in Konoha will not be extinguished. Jiraiya looked at the other ninja and shouted, isn't that right? Right. With me, long live Konoha, long live the Hokage. Long live Konoha. Long live the Hokage. For a moment, the ninja cheered, their spirits instantly ignited. But one sentence was too heartbreaking, nothing but strength and good looks. I want to have nothing like that too. Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hey, is no one going to help me up? Thanks a lot. Sigh. Looking at the wreckage all around and the vacantized Danzo, Hiruzen Sarutobi's heart ached so much he could barely breathe. He could only let out a deep sigh. After such a huge commotion, the already turbulent ninja world was bound to become even more unstable. Konoha had suffered such great losses, yet they couldn't retaliate, as they couldn't even find the person responsible. Sarutobi was even somewhat grateful that Lucian had left suddenly. Facing such an unknown entity had sparked a trace of fear in his heart, which he found deeply shameful. It was too humiliating. Unnoticed by anyone, Orochimaru quietly left the scene and quickly returned to his home, locking the doors and windows. Standing in front of the mirror, Orochimaru took off his shirt and stared at his reflection, somewhat lost in thought. Then, Orochimaru smiled, a crazed smile. Is this the truth? Ha. Indeed, this is the truth I seek. The moment Orochimaru was kicked away by Lucian, a few words had been carved onto his body with spiritual power. The wound could heal, but the words were clearly visible. 9 words of truth. Follow me, and I shall grant you eternal life. These words, combined with everything that had just happened, made Orochimaru understand that Lucian was truly different. Perhaps he really was the child of God that the people from the orphanage spoke of. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 11. Constructing a spirit particle space, the ninja world trembles. Lucian had not deceived Orochimaru. A powerful, pure-blooded Quincy could live for 1,000 years without blinking. As long as he had enough soul energy, Lucian was virtually immortal. And a pure-blooded Quincy who had been granted a shrift by Lucian could be resurrected at any time, even after death. For Orochimaru, it didn't matter if it was true or false. Even if there was only a 1 in 100 million chance, he would still try. There are too many truths in the world, but how can one pursue infinite truth in a finite lifetime? Therefore, Orochimaru's first goal was eternal life. Only by living forever, would he have the chance to analyze the truth of all things. Truth is what I pursue. But to follow, how could I not present a grand gift? The words, refuse, and doubt, never appeared in Orochimaru's mind. From the moment the words, eternal life, appeared, there was nothing else in his eyes. Konoha had only been established for a little over 30 years. He himself was only in his early 20s. Why should he give up an infinite life for the sake of a mere few decades in Konoha? A grand gift. I must choose it carefully. The future king. I am ready. Please leave behind your coordinates, so that I may find you. Konoha, beneath the shadows. This was where Lucian currently was. His seemingly effortless and instantaneous disappearance was, in fact, Lucian using the Schatten Barike to enter a shadow space. I can't stay in the Schatten Barike for long, so construct a spirit particle space. Lucian manipulated the spirit particles. Undetected by anyone in Konoha, within the shadow of a building, he constructed a small spirit particle space. A pure spirit particle space, an independent small world. In the world of Shinigami, the so-called invisible empire was formless and shadowless. Who would have thought that such a kingdom could exist within the shadows? The small space was completely white, with nothing in it. Lucian didn't need to put much effort into building it. After all, it was only a temporary stop. I almost lost control. Lucian did his best to soothe his spiritual power and spiritual pressure. Jiraiya was right. The energy within his body after the evolution was too violent. An inexperienced person like him had almost failed to control it. However, the pressure the Konoha ninja felt was mainly spiritual. Lucian's spiritual pressure had a great suppressive effect on ninja who did not primarily cultivate their souls. If he were to convert his energy level, without considering his abilities, Lucian estimated that his current spiritual power level was around the mid to late Kage level. And that was just his spiritual power level. Lucian also had spiritual pressure, which referred to the density and strength of his soul. Against those ninja who basically didn't cultivate their souls, Lucian could kill most of them with his spiritual pressure alone. Even without spiritual pressure, combat power didn't just depend on the amount of energy. Ninja battles were battles of intelligence, and no one understood Lucian's abilities. Take Hidan, for example. His taijutsu was that of an ordinary jonin, but given the right conditions, he could kill the god of shinobi. After all, it had been less than an hour since Lucian had regained his ability to move. He had fought by growing stronger through battle, but his foundation was too shallow. The evolution had not only increased his potential. He hadn't had time to master and develop his abilities. The Almighty had still not awakened. It would probably only appear at the next stage. Tsukumo Hatake might die. Lucian hadn't seen either of them. They were clearly not in the village. One wielded the white light chakra saber, a Kage-level powerhouse whose strength surpassed the current Sannin. The other was a currently unknown taijutsu master who could explode with power at any moment. No, wait, Might Dai had only barely mastered the 8th gate during the 3rd Shinobi World War. He couldn't even kill all of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, a far cry from Guy. Right now, he definitely hadn't mastered the 8th gate. Not enough to make Lucian wary. My abilities are also a little different. Is it because of the Hōgyoku? Setting aside the Hōgyoku for now, which Lucian needed to explore slowly. But he could feel that the abilities of the Quincy progenitor were different. For example, Yhwach had to continuously absorb human souls, or he would revert to the weak state he was born in, and even wither and die. But Lucian didn't feel this. He no longer had any physical defects. His other abilities, such as the Quincy Cross and Sanct Altar, also seemed to be different. These were things Lucian would have to realize one by one. Next, I'll stabilize my strength, master my skills, and find a place to settle. And build the invisible empire. And so, Lucian silently trained in the spirit particle space. He had killed a total of several hundred Konoha ninja. If he absorbed all their soul energy, converted to the ninja world's ranking system, even if he couldn't become a super kage, he would at least be at the peak of the kage level. No one could have known. The great demon king who had destroyed Konoha was right under their noses, in the shadows. In a world of different dimensions, news travels at an incredible speed. While the Konoha ninja were still cleaning up the battlefield, and the villagers of Konoha had not yet recovered from the chaos, the news of what had happened in Konoha spread throughout the ninja world. What? Someone invaded Konoha. Crippled Danzo, that old schemer. Killed several hundred Konoha ninja. Declared war on Konoha and got away unscathed. One piece of news after another, though lacking in detail, was confirmed to be true. It struck the entire ninja world like a meteorite. It was unbelievable. Even if they didn't want to admit it, in the eyes of most nations, Konoha and the Land of Fire were the strongest. The village built by the god of Shinobi and the Asura of the ninja world was number one. The idea of a single person taking on Konoha was too fantastic to be true. The major ninja villages were shaken. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 12. Reactions of the Great Villages. Black Zetsu appears. Village hidden in the cloud. On a mountain peak that pierced the clouds, shrouded in mist, the deafening roar of thunder echoed. In the Raikage's office, the man sitting in the head seat was a middle-aged man with light yellow hair and bulging muscles. He was the third Raikage, a shinobi who prided himself on his strongest spear and strongest shield, capable of going toe-to-toe with the 8 tails. The third Raikage appeared rough and short-tempered, but his words were gentle yet powerful. If you can, please bring him here. My village hidden in the cloud can accommodate his ambition. The 8-Tails Jinchuriki, Blue B, agreed, his potential is strong. He is worth recruiting. If you ask me, it's just an unknown Kekkei Genkei, that's all. A sturdy teenager, who bore some resemblance to the third Raikage, spoke with a tone of defiance. He was only able to do that because of the information gap. His actual strength might not even match mine. The future fourth Raikage was in his prime, full of vigor. He naturally disliked Lucian, a young man who had suddenly appeared and made a name for himself in the ninja world. He had rarely met his match among his peers. Who was afraid of whom? You idiot. You fool. You're just jealous, oh yeah. A playful rap suddenly sounded beside him, causing the future fourth Raikage's face to flush red. You idiot, B. Shut up. You want a beating. You idiot, you. Thump, thump, thump. Before the kid in the sunglasses could finish, he was met with a beating from his older brother. Killer B was young, just old enough for the academy, and not yet a Jinchuriki. But unlike in the original story, where the future fourth Raikage only discovered B after becoming a Raikage candidate. In this timeline, A and the young B had hit it off from the start, and he had taken him in as a brother. The third Raikage nodded in approval. In the village hidden in the cloud, it was a rule that each Raikage must have a partner. Raising them together from a young age would foster a better bond. Seeing this scene, the third Raikage couldn't help but smile, his face full of pride. My children are not inferior to anyone. Village hidden in the stone. In the center of the village, surrounded by rocks, a furious roar came from the Tsuchikage's office. What a mess of intelligence. Is this the kind of news I want? I want every movement of the Konoha forces. I don't give a damn if Danzo is dead or not. The third Tsuchikage, Onoki, in his prime, floated in midair, looking quite displeased. Although the destruction of Konoha was a happy event, most of this intelligence report was just boasting about how strong Lucian was. This did not sit well with Onoki's master mentality. Even the Asura of the ninja world who had once made him grovel on the ground was dead. In the vast ninja world, who could compare to him, let alone a mere youngster? Roshi, take advantage of Konoha's internal turmoil and lead a team to probe the border of the Land of Fire. While you're at it, contact the village hidden in the sand or the village hidden in the rain, and try to form a joint operation. Aside from the battle-crazed D-bunch from the village hidden in the cloud, Onoki was the Kage with the deepest obsession with Konoha. He would never forget the humiliation brought upon him by the Asura of the ninja world. He was always looking to take a bite out of Konoha. The Second Shinobi World War was his chance. Yes, Lord Tsuchikage. Village hidden in the sand. In the Kage's office. The third Kage, hailed as the strongest in history, stood by the window and took a deep breath of the unique sandy air of his village, then looked longingly in the direction of Konoha. Only a few hundred ninja died. That kid is not strong enough. Hiruzen Sarutobi is not dead. The third Kazekage cursed Sarutobi in his heart, wishing that Konoha would be completely destroyed. Konoha of the Land of Fire occupied the most prosperous area in the ninja world. Not to mention other resources, just the forests were so vast they couldn't be cut down. It was nothing like his village hidden in the sand, which was so poor that sand was everywhere, and any tree was treated as a treasure. Inform Chio not to get too entangled with the village hidden in the rain. My greatest enemy is Konoha. Yes, Lord Kazekage. Village hidden in the mist. The third Mizukage looked at the intelligence report and fell into deep thought. As the ninja village of the Land of Water, an island nation, it was built deep in the mountains of the island, covered in thick fog, and completely isolated from other countries. The village hidden in the mist was not keen on the resources and wars of the mainland. Firstly, it was too far from the mainland, and secondly, it was self-sufficient. Of course, if they had the chance, they would definitely take a bite, but the current situation was unclear, so they could only bide their time. Pass down the information about Lucian. Designate him as a dangerous person. If any suspicious individuals are found, report immediately. Apart from Konoha, the other major nations did not pay much attention to Lucian. As long as he wasn't a powerhouse on the level of Hashirama or Madara, even a few more Kage-level individuals would not have much impact on the upcoming war. They would just wait and see. But there was one person who paid attention, and was even suspicious. In just a few days, he grew from an infant to an adult. None of his techniques resemble ninjutsu. In every aspect, he is out of place with ninjas, and I can't even sense chakra from him. Is it really a Kekkei Genkai? On the outskirts of Konoha, a pitch-black figure looked down at the remains of a root ninja he had just tortured to death for information, lost in thought. In his 1,000 years of experience, he had never seen anyone as strange as Lucian. Where on earth did he go? There's no trace of him. Black Zetsu did not like powerful individuals that he couldn't understand. Lucian's existence was a challenge to his knowledge, and it made him uneasy. Good, this adds a little novelty to my boring life. Black Zetsu grinned, revealing his serrated white teeth. He then turned to look at an old man sitting cross-legged in a cave, and his smile grew wider. A young man like this should be able to pique a little interest in you. But I won't tell you. Hey, this is fun, hee hee hee. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 13. Target, Tailed Beasts, the Nine-Tails trembles in fear. Hee hee hee, interesting. After one last look at Konoha, Black Zetsu turned and left. He didn't believe he couldn't find Lucian by searching the entire ninja world. Black Zetsu. Lucian emerged from the shadows. He's already mixed up with that man so early. Lucian thought to himself. In the original story, Black Zetsu only actively appeared after Madara entrusted everything to Obito and infused his will into the other half of White Zetsu's body. Things were a bit different now. Black Zetsu had already disguised himself and was by Madara's side. After stabilizing his energy earlier, Lucian had just left the spirit particle space when he was startled. He saw a pitch-black fellow cruelly torturing a root ninja, looking just like a ghost. Hearing Black Zetsu's laughter from within the Shatten Barrike, Lucian wanted to hit someone. Such an unpleasant laugh. Who is that old schemer plotting against now? Lucian wasn't interested in Black Zetsu. He focused on expanding his perception, sensing the spiritual bodies throughout Konoha. There were currently 3 ways for Lucian to become stronger. 1. Patiently absorb spirit particles and bide his time until he was invincible. 2. Rely on the Hōgyoku to continuously evolve in all aspects. 3. Rely on slaughter to devour soul energy. The stronger the opponent, the better. The first option would take who knows how many years. For the second, he couldn't just keep killing himself every day. Hōgyoku, are you trying to exploit a bug in my system? The third was currently the best method, but Lucian couldn't just mindlessly kill, as it would have a great impact on his mental state. The soul energy of ordinary ninja wasn't very effective. So he had to find top-tier powerhouses. And for top-tier powerhouses, Lucian had already set his target. The nine-tailed beasts. As life forms made of enormous amounts of chakra, they also had souls. For example, when Minato Namikaze used the Reaper Death Seal on the Nine Tails, its soul was huge, a source of highly concentrated spirit particles. If he killed them all and devoured their soul energy, and then absorbed the soul energy of ninja from the war, it would be enough to quickly raise Lucian's level to the 6th Sage level. Even if it wasn't enough, Lucian had several backup plans. Without further ado, Lucian flew directly towards the location of the Nine-Tails spiritual body that he had sensed. The night was quiet. But in the Konoha hospital, many ninja were groaning in pain. They had all been seriously injured by Lucian. The hospital was busy today. Lucian's appearance had taught Konoha a good lesson. In a hospital room in a corner on the third floor, two lollies who had just woken up were whispering to each other. Makoto, thank you for saving me. The fact that Makoto had stepped forward to protect her in a life or death situation filled Kushina with gratitude. True friendship is found in times of crisis. Makoto Uchiha took Kushina's hand and smiled gently. It's good that you're okay. We're not official ninja yet. If you encounter a situation like that again, remember to stay far away. Faced with the gentle young lady, Kushina nodded obediently. However, thinking about what happened today, Kushina's eyes grew distant. It seemed she understood something, and Makoto also fell silent. The two girls had just woken up and didn't know what had happened afterwards. Their memories stopped at the scene where Lucian gave up resisting and was killed. Then, the two girls were knocked unconscious by a snake's tail. The image of him as a hero was something they couldn't shake. Lucian's death also made their hearts heavy and complicated. Makoto, how could there be such a foolish person in the world? As she was speaking, Kushina's body suddenly trembled. A monster was roaring deep inside her. Quick, undo the seal. I'll get you out of here. Hurry. Or we'll both die. Is that the monster? Kushina was shocked. Except for hearing it roar during the transfer of the Nine Tails, the beast had never paid her any mind. But today was different. Hey, you're the Nine Tails. Are you that much of a coward? Damn it, it's too late. The Nine Tails' tone was extremely angry, with a hint of a tremor. It was hard to imagine that the proud Nine Tails would have a day of fear. The Nine Tails was extremely sensitive to danger. After Lucian evolved, its fur stood on end. The threat made its heart run cold. It was a fatal feeling, one that could completely annihilate it. And now, it sensed Lucian rapidly approaching, and it felt his undisguised killing intent. Nine Tails, who the hell did I provoke? Once, there was a guy named Hashirama Senju. Without a word, he beat me up and sealed me away. I asked him why he captured me. He said I was too strong. What the hell? He beat me with one hand and didn't even lock the cage properly. Then there was that despicable Uchiha Madara. He also controlled me without a word, leaving me with years of psychological trauma. And today, this one is even more ruthless. He wants to kill me. You all bully beasts too much. The Nine Tails recalled the past, its eyes filled with bitter tears. Boom. With a loud roar, the wall of the third-floor hospital room was blasted open, waking up the other people in the hospital. Sarutobi, who was in a room on the third floor accompanying Danzo, immediately stood up. Konoha had suffered great losses. The root ninja were almost completely wiped out, and hundreds of other ninja had died, including some genin students who had come to watch the commotion. Sarutobi was mentally and physically exhausted. He looked at the numb-faced Danzo and frowned slightly. What's happening outside? Lord Hokage, it's bad. That Lucian is here again. Damn it. Sarutobi immediately rushed out. The expressionless Danzo's eyes were suddenly filled with venom and fear. He's back again, that devil. Hearing the name Lucian, Danzo's whole body shivered. Just hearing those two words made his very soul tremble. He finally understood why Lucian hadn't killed him. Sometimes, living is more painful than dying. Chapter 14. Kidnapping Kushina, Fugaku awakens his eyes. With Lucian's appearance, the hospital was thrown into chaos. As Sarutobi ran down the corridor and saw Lucian, his voice was grave. What are you trying to do? Do you really want to be Konoha's mortal enemy? Don't think you're invincible. Hey. Lucian ignored Sarutobi and directly pushed open the door to the adjacent hospital room. Upon opening the door, he saw two lawless holding hands. For a moment, six eyes met. You're. Seeing Lucian, Makoto Uchiha was stunned, her small mouth falling open involuntarily. Although Lucian had grown from a child to an adult, she inexplicably recognized him at a glance. Kushina's eyes also widened. She rubbed them with her other hand and then blurted out. You've gotten so big. Quote. Lucian paid no attention to the two girls, instead carefully sensing the Nine-Tails' spiritual pressure. Worthy of the Nine Tails. The amount of spirit particles was far greater than that of the several hundred ninja he had killed. It's hopeless. He's here to kill us. The Nine-Tails' roar echoed again. Kushina was a little confused, completely unable to understand the Nine-Tails meaning. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Lucian walking towards her with a cold expression. A murderous aura spread out, causing the temperature in the entire room to plummet. At that moment, Kushina finally came to her senses and subconsciously muttered. Are you going to kill me? In that case, take my life. These lawless are something else. Lucian couldn't understand Kushina's way of thinking at all. He formed a handknife and chopped down towards her. Thud. Seeing Kushina's eyes roll back as she fainted, Makoto Uchiha protectively pulled her into her arms and assumed a fighting stance. You go down too. Looking at the two girls who were like conjoined twins, Lucian gave Makoto a chop as well. Package deal. Lucian held Kushina and Makoto, one in each arm, then turned to look at the extremely furious Hiruzen Sarutobi at the door. There was also an even more furious, redayed teenager. You bastard. Let go of Makoto. Seeing Makoto in Lucian's arms, Fugaku Uchiha's heart was about to break. As the young master of the Uchiha clan, he could have anything, but there was one thing he had always sought but never obtained. That was Makoto's gentleness and embrace. As the most beautiful princess of her generation in the Uchiha clan, and the daughter of an elder, Makoto was kind and gentle, the goddess in the hearts of all the young Uchiha. But Makoto had never smiled at him, likely because he was too arrogant and brash as a youth. He acknowledged his shortcomings and was willing to change for Makoto. Fugaku believed, a simp, in the end, will have everything. But now, the goddess he hadn't even touched a fingernail of was knocked unconscious and held in another man's arms. Fury instantly filled his entire being. The hatred of having one's wife stolen is irreconcilable. Die. The charging Fugaku was completely ignored by Lucian. He glanced at Sarutobi, who was also making a move, left a single sentence, and vanished. I'm taking the Nine-Tails. See you. Such insolence. Simply lawless. Seeing Lucian take Kushina away, Hiruzen Sarutobi was truly enraged. The fact that the Nine-Tails was inside Kushina was something that not even the Sannin knew. It was a strategic asset of Konoha. Everyone, after him. Sarutobi roared and gave chase, even though the hope was slim. He's gone. Orochimaru, who had just rushed over, was a bit stunned. He had thought that Lucian's return was to find him. Orochimaru. What? I'm less important than too lawless. Does he like women? I can be one too. Makoto. A heart-wrenching cry from Fugaku Uchiha echoed through the hospital, truly bringing tears to the eyes of those who heard it. An indescribable pain swept through Fugaku's entire body. The sight of Makoto being snatched away brought him not only pain but also an extremely intense hatred. A special chakra surged through Fugaku's brain, acting on his optic nerves and causing a change in his crimson eyes. The Twatomo Sharingan spun rapidly, becoming a Threetomo in the blink of an eye. But it didn't stop there, it began to spin even faster. Along with an extremely dark energy fluctuation, the three tomo of the Sharingan linked together, forming a strange, pinwheel-like shape. Mangekyo Sharingan. If Lucian had seen this, he would have definitely exclaimed in shock. In the original timeline, Fugaku Uchiha had awakened his Mangekyo during the Third Shinobi World War and had kept it hidden. But at that time, Fugaku was in his 30s, wasn't he? But now he was only a teenager. A massive level up. Hagoromo, because of a goddess's death, went from 0 to 3-domo. Obito, because of a goddess's death, evolved from Twatomo to Mangekyo. Fugaku, because his goddess was stolen, evolved from Twatomo to Mangekyo. In summary, women are the shortcut to evolving the Sharingan. Yes. The next day, another piece of news shook the ninja world. Konoha's wanted poster. A bounty on the Demon King Lucian, 3 billion ryo. Wanted dead or alive. Hiss, is this for real? My god, this is insane. The news spread like wildfire through the ninja world, causing a massive uproar. All the ninja were discussing it with excitement, and even shock. This was definitely the highest bounty in history. To put it in perspective, even more than 20 years later, Chiriku, one of the 12 guardian ninja of the Land of Fire's daimyo, had a bounty of 30 million. The Hokage's son, Asuma, had a bounty of 35 million. Even the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Utakata, was only worth 60 million. The highest bounty for other rogue ninjas was barely 100 million. Lucian, who had been given the title, Demon King, had his bounty raised directly to 3 billion ryo. A number that was enough to drive any ninja crazy. What was most shocking was that Konoha had also announced that if one obtained Lucian's flesh and blood, after confirmation, they could also receive a reward of no less than 100 million ryo. Lucian's flesh and blood energy was different from chakra, so it would be easy to identify. They're so damn rich. This time, it wasn't just other ninja, even the Kage of other villages were a little envious, shocked at how wealthy Konoha was. At the same time, it strengthened their resolve to take down Konoha. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 15. A strange loli, Kakuzu goes crazy. Mine. It's all mine. Upon hearing the news, a man with a masked mouth and a Takigaku rogue ninja headband had his green eyes instantly turn red. Get out of my way. All of you, get out of my way. Where is Lucian? Show yourself. Kakuzu was really going crazy, mad with excitement. That was 3 billion ryo. Enough to make him ecstatic. This wasn't the future, where inflation had taken its toll. Money was worth a lot right now. The future Asuma's bounty, in the present, would be a few million ryo at most. One can only imagine how frantic 3 billion ryo made Kakuzu. He charged around like a raging bull, searching everywhere for any trace of Lucian. In Konoha, Sarutobi was also going crazy. Are you insane, Danzo? My 30 million ryo. Why did you act on your own and raise the bounty to 3 billion ryo? Sarutobi's heart ached so much he could barely breathe. One doesn't know the cost of firewood and rice until one is in charge of the household. Konoha's development required money everywhere, he wished he could split 1 ryo into 2. Danzo was calm. I'll pay for the extra. Sarutobi. Damn it, just how much money have you embezzled? Seeing Sarutobi's strange look, Danzo sneered, what? In your eyes, the Nine-Tails isn't worth that much. Did all those dead ninja die for nothing? Or perhaps, my injuries are worthless. You should know, Lucian is too great a threat. If he's not dead, he'll have to spend his life dodging the pursuit of countless ninja. If he is dead, then we've just spent money to buy peace. Sarutobi took a deep breath, his headache getting worse. Do as you wish. I'm tired. Seeing Sarutobi leave the hospital room, Danzo's eyes were filled with a cold darkness. He then looked at Orochimaru, who was beside him. Ordinary limbs are not suitable for me. I need your help, Orochimaru. Orochimaru gave a sinister smile. What can I do for you, Lord Danzo? The first Hokage's cells, and the Sharingan. While the ninja were searching for Lucian. In a shadow on the border between the land of fire and the land of rain, Lucian had created a small spirit particle space. Where is this? Before them was a vast expanse of white, with nothing in it. The two lawless huddled together tightly. From time to time, the two girls would steal glances at Lucian, who was not far away, with a mix of fear, nervousness, and curiosity. This is my world. Lucian walked over and looked at Kushina's stomach. Take off your clothes. Ah. After a moment of confusion, Kushina let out a sharp scream and hid behind Makoto like a startled rabbit, shivering. Makoto Uchiha's voice also trembled. Don't hurt Kushina. She's still young. Take me instead. Lucian. Aren't you young too? Lucian noticed a problem. From beginning to end, he had not seen a trace of hostility in the eyes of the two girls. But on second thought, Kushina had only been in Konoha for a few years, so her sense of belonging wasn't that strong. And Makoto Uchiha, Tisk, and Uchiha. I want to see the Nine-Tails seal. If you do it, it'll be too much trouble. Lucian's slightly lazy gaze suddenly filled with pressure, and his voice grew a few degrees colder. I can kill you and then kill the Nine-Tails, or you can undo the seal and fight for that 1 in 10,000 chance of survival. Kushina was stunned. So it was for the Nine-Tails. Just as Makoto was about to speak, she was stopped by Kushina. Then, Kushina took a step forward, raised her head, and spoke with a stubborn seriousness. I'll do it. I will repay the life I owe you, but you cannot harm Makoto. More of this strange talk. Lucian's eyes narrowed slightly, a wise choice. Begin. Kushina. Makoto, live on for me. Kushina smiled brightly, formed hand seals, and pressed them directly onto her stomach. If a tailed beast is unsealed for no reason, the Jinchuriki will die. Her foundation in sealing jutsu was very strong. Not only had she been exposed to it from a young age in the land of whirlpools, but she had also been taught by Mito Uzumaki for a period of time. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, she didn't lack chakra, she was fully capable of unsealing it herself. Gurgle. To Makoto's shock, deep red chakra, like bubbles, began to pour out of Kushina's body. This chakra was evil and powerful. Damn humans. Roar. The red chakra continued to grow, and in the blink of an eye, it formed a massive, several dozen-meter tall nine-tailed fox that leapt out, letting out a furious roar. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The enraged Nine-Tails opened its massive maw, and a huge black ball of chakra began to form in its mouth. Hōgyoku, blood artery. As the Nine-Tails was forming the tailed beast bomb, Lucian instantly appeared on its head and delivered a vicious kick. Bam! In a battle of vastly different sizes, the Nine-Tails was sent flying by Lucian's kick, and the tailed beast bomb it was forming dissipated. Bam! 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 As the Nine-Tails was sent flying, Lucian moved quickly, delivering a series of kicks. Makoto was dumbfounded. The massive Nine-Tails was being kicked around like a ball by Lucian. Its huge head was becoming misshapen. Arg, you damn human. The Nine-Tails was filled with grief and indignation. At least Hashirama Senju had pinned it to the ground. Madara Uchiha had only glared at it. Lucian was simply trampling on its dignity. Its head spinning, the Nine-Tails was kicked to the ground by Lucian's final blow. Time for a swift end. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 16. Annihilating the Nine-Tails, granting the Shrift. Sanct Altar. Dozens of enormous golden pillars of light emerged from beneath Lucian's feet, striking the ground first and then soaring into the sky, forming a massive wall of light. Like a barrier, it completely sealed the Nine-Tails as it fell into it. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Nine-Tails fell into the range of the Sanct Altar. Before its muddled head could clear, it was assaulted by an intense pain. Roar, arg. From the walls of light on all sides, countless arrows filled with a destructive aura shot out. Innumerable Heilig file pierced through the Nine-Tails' body, dealing a heavy blow to its soul. Sanct Altar. A great defensive spell for Quincy that combines both offense and defense. It encloses the area with a wall of light, which can isolate enemies. Once an enemy steps into this area, they will be shot down by an endless barrage of Heilig file. Human, you can't kill me. Arg. The terrifying pain and the feeling of its own weakness sent the Nine-Tails into a panic. It tried with all its might to break out, but found it impossible. For the first time, it felt the true meaning of death. Never before had a human's attack struck directly at its soul. If it died this time, the so-called rebirth of the tailed beasts would be meaningless. It would completely disappear from the ninja world. The so-called consciousness, will, spirit, and so on, were all essentially soul power. Just like this. As the endless barrage of Heilig file continued, Lucian watched the Nine-Tails' soul energy continuously dissipate. It was the perfect supplement. While maintaining the Sanct Altar's barrage, Lucian greedily devoured the dense spirit particles. His aura continued to grow stronger. At the same time, a certain pitch-black fellow suddenly felt a sense of unease in his heart, as if something important was about to be lost. Why do I have this feeling? Could it be that Madara is dead? No, that tool is not important. Black Zetsu's face grew even darker. He tried his best to sense it, but found nothing. He couldn't help but look up at the sky. Could it be Mother? Impossible. Splash. The massive body of the Nine-Tails began to disintegrate under the endless assault of the Heilig file. Clumps of red chakra evaporated like gas as the Nine-Tails roared and struggled. But it was all useless. Lucian watched coldly. Perhaps he was the first transmigrator to kill the Nine-Tails just because he felt like it. A complete death, with no chance of revival. After all, any soul destroyed by a Quincy would be completely erased. Without any obstacles, Lucian's spiritual power level broke through from the peak of the cage level to the super cage level, and his spiritual pressure also increased greatly. Super cage level. It was that simple. The Almighty, unlocked. The Almighty. It seems a bit different. After briefly sensing the Almighty, Lucian could only describe it as incredibly powerful. It was a completely rule-breaking ability, a conceptual one, an absolute trump card. With the right conditions, he could gather subordinates and conquer the world. Kushina. Makoto tightly held the barely breathing Kushina, whose life force was continuously fading. Makoto couldn't believe this was really happening. I'm fine. He's so strong. Kushina managed a smile, doing her best to open her eyes and look at the battlefield. Grandma Mito said that those who can suppress the Nine-Tails are heroes, like the first Hokage. But you killed the Nine-Tails. As the last wisp of the Nine-Tails' consciousness was annihilated, the other tailed beasts felt a chill in their hearts. They all sensed that something was wrong, as if a great disaster was imminent. Because Lucian had killed the Nine-Tails within the spirit particle space. They were all of the same origin, but now one was gone, without a trace of consciousness. The strongest of them, the Nine-Tails, was completely dead. Watching Lucian walk towards them step by step, Makoto took a deep breath, gently laid Kushina down, and knelt. My lord, I beg you to save Kushina. I am willing to do anything for you. Are you sure, anything? Looking at the delicate little loli, Lucian asked seriously. Makoto Uchiha bit her lip, glanced back at the dying Kushina, and nodded forcefully. Then, from now on, your body and soul belong to me. This is truly killing 3 birds with 1 stone, Lucian thought, looking at Makoto with satisfaction. He had already taken them. There was no reason to let them go. Whether Makoto's intentions were true or false didn't matter. In the future, the Uchiha clan would be proud of the choice Makoto made today. Puchi. Lucian cut his finger, and 2 drops of crimson blood floated out. Makoto was suspicious, but her gaze was involuntarily drawn to the blood. That shade of red seemed to have a fatal attraction, making her want to drink it. My blood contains energy. It will transform you and grant you new power. As Lucian spoke, he flicked the 2 drops of blood into the mouths of the 2 girls. From this day on, you shall be pure-blooded Quincy. Lucian could bestow his blood, and the souls of those who drank it would be engraved with a letter representing an ability. Once the shrift was formed, Lucian could send even more powerful souls into the drinker's body. Due to the nature of this ability, the souls of anyone killed by a person to whom Lucian had granted an ability would be absorbed by Lucian, strengthening him. To put it simply, he could let his subordinates do the killing, and Lucian could sit at home and level up. Hiss. Makoto's eyes suddenly widened. The dying Kushina's body also twitched. It felt as if her soul was being torn apart, cut by 1,000 blades. Along with the immense pain, the 2 girls began to change. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 17. The 2 girls come of age, a chance encounter with 3 little ones. Height. Watching the 2 girls who had just endured painful modification, Lucian looked a little dissatisfied. They were both too young. Making lawless subordinates felt like letting children play at war. Sure, the Sternritter had plenty of lawless, even a few traps, but was that really a good idea? When the 2 sides clash and the enemy are all burly men while Lucian's side is a field of lawless, where would the momentum be? Focus and receive my spiritual power. Lucian pressed both hands to the girls' foreheads and bestowed their shrift. He gathered reishi for them to absorb, engraved the shrift, and poured in spiritual power until their level rose to around elite Jonin, along with a powerful Ryutsu. This was to help them adapt to becoming stronger as fast as possible. Cute means nothing next to sexy. The 2 girls' bodies began to grow rapidly, black and red long hair streaming. In the blink of an eye they were about 1.70 meters, tall and striking, every inch the goddess. 2 beauties who looked 18 appeared. Ah, my clothes. Quote, quote. Not bad at all. 3 months later. The Shinobi world was in turmoil. In just 3 months, a near boiling point second war suddenly erupted. 2 months ago, Omegakure and Sunagakure fought. Hanzo tried to use poison gas to sweep the battlefield, but all the poison released from the salamander was neutralized by Chiyo, who discovered the salamander's poison supply needed 5 minutes to replenish. Head aching, Hanzo withdrew, and both sides pulled back. A month ago, Sunagakure started fighting Konoha again. Chiyo led the Suna shinobi against Konoha's force led by Hatake Tsukumo. Konoha's White Fang slew Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law, the parents of Sasori, igniting Chiyo's hatred and frenzy. The battle went straight into a white-hot phase. Aside from Kurigakure staying quiet for now, Iwagakure and Kumogakure were both watching for chances to provoke Konoha. For a time, Konoha was under tremendous pressure. On top of that, Konoha was already fighting Omegakure. In the chaos across the Shinobi world, the land of rain at the 3-country border suffered the worst. Good intelligence work. Anything else? Inside the reishi space, Lucian sat calmly on the throne, looking at the 2 girls with approval. Both wore white Quincy uniforms, white cloaks marked with pentagrams, military caps bearing the Wandenreich insignia, and high boots. Tall and commanding, they looked like female generals. The Wandenreich hadn't been formed yet, but uniforms had to be unified. Unified in form only. Not everyone needed to wear the exact same cut. Quincy attire could vary, short or long skirts, long coats, suits and the like, but the overall palette had to be pure white. Uzumaki Kushina's red hair fluttered, lively eyes flashing with excitement, cheerful and fiery. Uchiha Makoto's black hair fell naturally, a gentle, water-soft femininity emanating from her bones. Kushina shook her fists, thrilled. Nothing else. Has the Empire's sight been decided? Leave the next opponents to me. I'll guarantee the mission. Lucian spoke softly. Konoha. All right, Kushina's eyes went wide, then, seeing Lucian's amused look, she puffed out her cheeks. Her body had grown and developed perfectly, but a few childish habits lingered. Makoto's gaze stayed tender. Lucian-sama would likely choose the land of rain. Makoto's wisdom truly isn't something Kushina can match. The girls pouted adorably at Lucian's words. He raised his hand, tore open the reishi space, and stepped onto the ground. For 3 months, Lucian had been cultivating. He had also trained the 2 girls within the reishi space, honing their abilities with initial results. The land of rain, the most chaotic place, was Lucian's target. There, on the border between the land of rain and the land of fire. Finally time to fight. I, Uzumaki Kushina, will make my name resound across the shinobi world. Hands on her hips, Kushina vibrated with excitement. Nothing she loved more than hitting people. Beside her, Makoto's eyes curved like crescent moons. Don't get careless. The shinobi world has many strong ones. I'm not afraid. Even if I really die in battle, I'll be revived, won't I, my dear Lucian-sama? Kushina winked playfully at Lucian, face full of expectation. Lucian's tone was utterly certain. Why waste spiritual power on resurrection? Wouldn't it be nicer to find another loli to raise? Ah, that's so heartless. Pouting loudly, Kushina lifted a finger, lively eyes turning serious. Small Heilig file. A lightning-like ray flashed from her fingertip, slicing the air, skimming past Lucian and lancing into the rear. Boom. A massive boulder exploded in an instant. With startled cries, 3 small figures were blasted clear. Cough, cough. Ninjas. Run. A young boy's urgent voice rang out. Kushina used Hōgyoku to move. Spotted on the ground. Huh, well now, 3 little brats. Lucian thought, not brats here. Mine are just well developed. Uchiha Makoto walked over, looked the 3 panicked children up and down, and spoke out of the blue. Shall we eat them? Whimpers. Man-eaters. Terrifying. The 3 children trembled. Lucian's eyelid twitched. So even gentle Makoto was full of darkness inside. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 18. Konan, Yahiko, Nagato. Kushina's eyes darted around, and she said with a mischievous grin, that little girl with light bluish-purple hair is so cute, she'd be best steamed. The other 2 can be stir-fried. Don't eat us. If you have to eat someone, eat me. I have more meat. The orange-haired little boy's voice trembled, but he was courageous. The red-haired little boy kept his head down, but he also stood firmly by their side. Tears welled up in the light bluish-purple-haired little girl's eyes, but she said bravely, 2 beautiful big sisters, and a handsome big brother, we were just looking for food, really. We're sorry for bothering you. Hearing this, Kushina's eyes lit up, and she couldn't stop smiling. Sister. Did you hear that? She called me big sister. She's just too cute. Hey, wait, I'm 18 now, so she should call me big sister. Lucian had a dark expression. Does her body grow but not her intelligence? Lucian didn't expect to meet the 3 little ones here. This was the border line, after all. For them to be searching for food here showed just how chaotic the land of rain is right now. Quote. Kushina couldn't help but glance a few more times at the red-haired boy, sensing a familiar clan aura. She then stepped forward and hugged the little girl. Alright, big sister was just teasing you. Are you hungry? How about big sister roasts a bunny for you? Thank you, beautiful big sister. The little girl whispered while discreetly making a hand signal. The 2 little boys breathed a sigh of relief. The signal meant they were temporarily safe. Konan. Lucian looked at Konan. She didn't have a princess-like life like Makoto, nor did she receive care from others after her hometown was destroyed like Kushina. Those 2 never had to worry about food or clothing, let alone experience true darkness. Konan, however, had wandered since she was a child, which made her mature early. She knew how to take care of others and possessed considerable wisdom and courage. Most importantly, she understood the cruelty of the world. It could be said that Konan was the female character in the ninja world whom Lucian admired the most. Let's not waste time. Let's go straight to the land of rain. Lucian's words stunned everyone for a moment, then they heard him continue. Find a hotel, have a good meal, then take a hot bath and change your clothes. From today on, you will follow me. Konan, Yahiko, and Nagato were stunned. Someone was willing to take them in. Was this a dream? A powerful ninja? Kushina smiled, bowing her head to gently stroke Conan's hair, and whispered, "See. That big brother seems cold on the outside but is warm on the inside. He's a super nice person. He's just a bit proud. He pretends to be aloof. He clearly wants something but holds back. Isn't he afraid of bottling it up? Ouch. You meanie. PFF'd. Seeing the aggrieved Kushina rubbing her head after being flicked, Conan couldn't help but laugh. It seemed she hadn't laughed like that in a long, long time. This big brother is really a good person. 2 hours later. Lucian was leading 2 great beauties, 2 little boys, and 1 little girl. Ignoring the strange gazes from a group of Land of Rain people, they walked straight through the street, heading towards the border between the 2 countries in the other direction. The refreshed Conan, Yahiko, and Nagato felt as if the world was completely different. It was as if all their past suffering was to welcome this very day. For a moment, the 3 of them lowered the guard they had built up over a long time towards Lucian and looked at him with respect. Sister Kushina, you're a liar. Conan's pale little face was now much rosier. She had changed into a Lolita-style Quincy outfit, looking like a little angel. Her delicate little face made Makoto and Kushina always want to give her a kiss. But at this moment, Conan's eyes were full of disbelief. Kushina's words had completely shattered her worldview. Yahiko couldn't help but speak up. Yeah, how can someone be a child 3 months ago and suddenly become an adult 3 months later? Nagato raised his head slightly, then quickly lowered it again. Kushina proudly held up a finger. Wrong. To be precise, on that day 3 months ago, he grew into an adult directly. The process took about 10 minutes. I know you don't believe me, but I have proof. Kushina pointed to herself and Makoto. Look, me and the gentle sister Makoto. The 3 little ones. Is it true? They're so grown up. Suddenly, Conan stole a glance at Lucian, then blinked and asked in a peculiar tone, Kushina. Sister, would it be convenient to tell me how old you were 3 months ago? Trying to turn the tables on her, huh? Kushina huffed twice and said decisively, Little one, big sister will teach you now. A girl's age is a secret, you can't just ask about it, understand? In any case, I'm older than you. Makoto couldn't help but stifle a laugh. Was she sure she was older than all 3 of them? Lord Lucian must have done it. It's so magical. Conan thought to herself, her bright eyes uncontrollably drawn to Lucian. During her wandering, she had seen too many people. But this calm, elegant, and slightly aloof big brother was truly as dazzling as the sun. Yahiko and Nagato also cast looks of admiration from time to time. They thought Lucian was super cool. Many a Megakure ninja had passed by on the road before, but wherever Lucian stood, no one dared to approach. He had the aura of a powerful leader. Lucian spoke calmly. Kushina Uzumaki, Makoto Uchiha. Here, Lord Lucian. Hearing Lucian call their full names, Kushina and Makoto instinctively straightened up and knelt on one knee, awaiting Lucian's command. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 19. Target, Hanzo of the Salamander. 15 li to the southeast, there is a man named Hanzo of the Salamander. Kill him. Lucian gazed into the distance, where a large number of life forms were gathered. This is your first battle. I will not hear the word, failure. Go. Yes, Lord Lucian. The next moment, the 2 women vanished. The 3 little ones couldn't help but look around, astonished to find that the 2 women were nowhere to be seen within a several 100-meter radius. They were too fast. Hanzo of the Salamander. The next moment, Yahiko exclaimed, unable to contain his worry, Lord Lucian, Hanzo is powerful. He founded the village hidden in the rain. So what? Forget about that. You only need to remember one thing. Lucian was unconcerned. The so-called demigod was only impressive depending on who he was compared to. Hanzo's fatal flaw was a severe lack of intelligence. Lucian looked up at the sky, as if he were about to grasp everything in his hands. Before us, there are no enemies. Hearing these words and seeing Lucian's calm, handsome face, the 3 little ones were stunned, feeling an unprecedented shock in their hearts. A new door had opened in their minds. If there was a god in this world, then it must be Lord Lucian. Let's go. Lucian picked up Conan and, using his spiritual power, wrapped up Nagato and Yahiko, then flew directly into the air. For a moment, the 3 little ones were dumbfounded. The fierce wind was so strong that Nagato's and Yahiko's cheeks were nearly blown off. Only Conan, enveloped in spiritual power, had her hair gently fluttering. Lord Lucian. In Lucian's arms, Conan's fair little face instantly turned as red as the setting sun. Her rapidly beating heart was a testament to her nervousness and shyness. Thank you, heavens, for letting me meet you. On the border between the two countries, Konoha and the village hidden in the rain had been fighting for over 10 days. Of course, it had mostly been skirmishes. Konoha was under a lot of pressure right now, and Hanzo of the Salamander of the village hidden in the rain was also cautious, never advancing rashly. For a time, the two sides were at a stalemate. On the border, in the Konoha camp. We can't go on like this. If we don't solve the problem of Hanzo, the village hidden in the cloud and the village hidden in the stone will definitely seize the opportunity to attack Konoha. Our forces are spread too thin. Inside the Konoha tent, Jiraiya and Tsunade frowned slightly. Hanzo was being too cautious right now. It seemed he was deliberately tying down this unit to disperse Konoha's forces. Considering this possibility, Jiraiya looked at a ninja, as Orochimaru replied. When will he arrive? Orochimaru was supposed to be on this expedition with them, but he had been temporarily borrowed by Danzo. Hiruzen Sarutobi, with his fondness for Danzo, hadn't said much. Who knows what kind of depraved things Danzo had been up to during this time. I'm here. At that moment, a travel-worn Orochimaru arrived, a remarkably relaxed smile on his face, which surprised both Tsunade and Jiraiya. What was going on? Orochimaru usually sneered, but this kind of smile. Did he find money? Find a wife? Jiraiya let out a breath and said, You've come at the right time. We're planning a decisive battle. We can't drag this out any longer. What do you think? Orochimaru's raspy voice sounded, I'll listen to you. ? Jiraiya and Tsunade exchanged a look. They both felt that something was off with Orochimaru, but they couldn't put their finger on it. Seeing this, a sinister smile appeared on Orochimaru's face. Hanzo is not to be underestimated. I was afraid of failure, which is why I hurried back. After all, human life is so fragile. We've been comrades for a while. We won't have the chance to work together again in the future. His words were strange. Jiraiya scratched his head and smiled. After we solve the problem of Hanzo, we'll have to split up and lead our own troops. After the Second Shinobi World War ends, we'll each become Jonin leaders of our own teams. We really won't have the chance to work together again. Tsunade's beautiful eyebrows arched slightly. What on earth had happened to Orochimaru? But now was not the time for too many questions. Following that, the main forces of Konoha began to move. On the outskirts of the Omegakure camp. Two tall, beautiful women moved through the area using the Shatten Barike, passing one large camp after another without being detected. The two women headed towards the strongest spiritual body they could sense. Be careful, Kushina. I know. They had been focusing on the strongest spiritual body, but as they got closer, Kushina discovered that outside an unremarkable large tent, there were a large number of ninja guards hidden in 3 layers, both inside and out. A demigod, he's being too cautious. Kushina couldn't help but complain. For a great demigod, to be hiding in a small tent was one thing, but to have dozens of ninja guarding him in secret, was he that afraid of death? But that was Hanzo's way. Although he was strong, he was a very careful and cautious person. He was equipped with a 24-hour rotating guard, and ordinary people could not get close. Even if his opponent was an unknown rookie ninja, he would not underestimate them in the slightest. Always choosing the most reliable method to eliminate his opponent was Hanzo's law of survival. Medium Heilig file. Kushina directly gathered the surrounding spirit particles in her palm, instantly forming a huge arrow filled with tyrannical energy. The moment she left the Shatten Barike, Kushina threw it directly at Hanzo's location. Boom! Along with the sound of the air exploding, the Omegakure ninja hiding in the shadows and guarding Hanzo were shocked. Before they could react, they saw a beam of light shoot into the camp, causing a terrifying explosion. The large tent was directly blown up. A cry of pain was heard, and a powerful shockwave sent all the hidden Omegakure ninja flying. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 20. Shrift Ability, the compulsory. He reacted so quickly. In Kushina's eyes, there was no human figure, only a spiritual body and spiritual pressure, in other words, a person's soul. She saw Hanzo use a body flicker just before the tent was destroyed. Fire style. Blazing array. A low, cold shout was heard. Only then did Kushina see the ground collapse, revealing a dense array of explosive tags which were then immediately ignited. Sensing the danger, Kushina instinctively entered the Shatten Barike. Boom! A powerful explosion rang out, turning the area within a dozen meters into a sea of flames. The Omegakure ninja also reacted, crying out in alarm, "Lord Hanzo. Don't panic. I'm fine." From another corner, Hanzo, wearing his respirator, emerged. He scanned his surroundings with a grim expression but found no sign of any enemy. "Fall back for now, and seal off this area with all your might." Although he hadn't seen the enemy, Hanzo could sense a faint danger. Ever cautious, he was always ready to attack. Summoning Jutsu, Ibuse the Salamander. Ibuse, a highly venomous black salamander, appeared, and in the blink of an eye, a purple poison gas began to spread. Ibuse spewed a wider-range poison mist from its mouth. Even Hanzo, who had an antibody to the salamander's poison, would be poisoned by the poison sac, which showed how potent the poison was. The Omegakure ninja retreated with all their might. The purple poison mist covered an area of several hundred meters. But Hanzo still couldn't find any sign of the enemy. He couldn't help but wonder, are they hiding underground? No, they vanished the moment the explosive tags went off. This guy is releasing poison. Inside the Shatten Barrack, Kushina frowned slightly. She wanted a grand, spectacular battle, not this kind of toxic atmosphere that restricted her movements. "Makoto, I'll leave it to you." In another part of the Shatten Barrack, Makoto was calm. Holding her breath, she walked directly out of the Shatten Barrack and slowly raised her slender hand. Disperse. As a Quincy, her basic abilities included Hylig File, Attack Hōgyoku, Movement, Blood Artery, enhances physical strength, Blood Vene, enhances physical defense, and Shatten Barrack, Evasion, Eavesdropping. These abilities could be enhanced by training, increasing spiritual power and spiritual pressure, and mastering the control of spirit particles. But a pure-blooded Quincy who had drunk Lucian's blood would also obtain a unique shrift. They would gain a unique ability comparable to a Shinigami's Zanpakuto or an Arankar's Resurrection. Makoto's shrift ability, the compulsory. The compulsory releases her nerves outside her body. As long as the nerves come into contact with a solid object, whether living or non-living, she can arbitrarily change the shape and state of motion of that solid. This ability is transferable. When a solid controlled by her nerves comes into contact with or approaches another solid, the nerves in the original solid will make contact with the new solid. She can then arbitrarily change the shape or trajectory of the new solid. Simply put, anything that comes into contact with Makoto's external nerves will have its shape and state of motion controlled, and this control can spread like a rolling ball, allowing her to become a one-woman army. Like a virus spreading. In the world of Shinigami, each member of the Sternritter had their own designation. The shrift appeared in the form of a letter, from A to Z. But the strength of a Quincy was not ranked in alphabetical order. The letter symbolized the first letter of the ability's English name. For example, Makoto's the compulsory, with the first letter C, had the designation C. Lucian's the Almighty, with the first letter A, had the designation A. However, Lucian didn't bother with English designations, it was meaningless. "You've finally appeared." Seeing a figure suddenly appear in the poison mist, Hanzo was about to attack, but then his expression changed. The spreading poison mist suddenly seemed to have grown eyes. It instantly dispersed from the center where Makoto stood and flew towards the inside. Makoto's external nerves had come into contact with the poison gas, and she had changed its shape and trajectory. This ability. In Hanzo's eyes, the spreading poison gas was returning, as if under some kind of control. Hiss, hiss. Suddenly, Hanzo's salamander, Ibuse, let out a painful hiss and began to twitch uncontrollably. Seeing this, Hanzo immediately flashed away. Die. Makoto Uchiha's eyes narrowed, and something that horrified Hanzo happened. Hiss, roar. The huge salamander, Ibuse, had its two massive front claws twisted in an unnatural way, turning into the shape of a pretzel in the blink of an eye, with blood gushing out. This was the so-called transferability of her ability. As the poison gas, controlled by Makoto's nerves, flowed, it touched other poison gas, which was then also controlled by Makoto. When the poison gas approached Ibuse the salamander, Ibuse was also controlled by Makoto. Forcibly, its body shape and state of motion were changed. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Not only that, but Ibuse the salamander's head also began to twist, as if an invisible giant hand were trying to wring it to death. If one did not understand Makoto's ability and blindly approached her, or carelessly touched a solid controlled by her, then no matter how many people there were, they would all die. Poof. Having suffered a heavy blow, Ibuse the salamander vanished in a puff of smoke, returning to the summoning realm. Damn it! Hanzo snapped out of his shock and roared angrily, then began to form hand seals. At that moment, a sense of crisis came from behind, interrupting his attack. The explode. Kushina, emerging from the Shatten Barrike, directly fired a spirit particle bomb. Shrift ability. The explode. The explode turns anything her spiritual pressure touches into a bomb for attack. It is indefensible and has astonishing destructive power. The explode ability, the ability of the Sternritter Bambietta Basturbine, seems simple but is extremely powerful. However, this ability was modified by Lucian. Originally, it turned anything her attacking spiritual pressure touched into a bomb. Now, she could directly fire spirit particle bombs. The reason Lucian modified this ability was because of Kushina's personality. Simple and direct was good. Turning everything into a bomb and simply and directly blowing up all enemies was something Kushina liked. An indefensible bomb, extremely powerful.